Hey, Deb, how are you?
Hey, good, Keaton. How are you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Doing good. Doing great.
Good.
Yep, I can hear you. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oops. Oh, what did I do?
There's a user in the there's a user in the waiting room whose name is just a black square. So I'm leaving that person in there. It's very strange. Never seen anything like it.
Really? There's no
So
name or phone number or
um,
anything?
there's no name. It's just a square, and it's a black square. That's all it is. So whoever it is is just going to stay there until they identify themselves. So
Yeah, well,
I
and
don't
just,
care if it says Tom Brady. It has to have.
well, maybe it's Tom Brady you could let him in. I mean, come on, Keaton. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
I'm concerned about, I'm concerned about, I know the one time our meeting got crashed, or what would you say it was? Do you remember when we had the gentleman step
Yes.
in, so,
It was
um,
I guess hijacked, you could say. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so, whatever, tonight we do have to time everyone to 3 minutes. Can you hear that
Sure.
okay?
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just, because if there's a
Yep,
lot of,
I can hear that.
yeah, we just want to make sure that, we give everyone the same amount of time and treat everyone this,
Absolutely.
fairly.
Sure.
And then can you close the chat box down on on all of this? Can you close that down or?
Yep, I can do that right now, actually. Security. Okay, no chat for anybody unless I can do it,
Right,
and then that person can reply to me. Yes, but that's
fine.
all because I'm the host.
Well,
So
and I feel that that's just going to scramble with maybe the clarity of the meeting as well, with the digital reception and us being able to hear people. I think that,
right.
I want to just make this as clear as possible so people who are
Yeah.
logging on can be heard and can hear everything. So whatever you need to
Right.
do as far as muting,
Okay.
mics and so forth, go ahead, because it's important that we're able to hear everyone.
Okay.
And not have interference if we can avoid it. So, okay,
Sure.
thanks. Okay, great.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, well, we're getting some snow. Wasn't expecting this.
Yeah, I didn't expect that at all.
The
No.
roads were
So,
a little,
oh well, a few inches.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what my mother and sister said. So,
Yeah, it
it's just
was
where we are, I guess. That's January.
January in Buffalo, New York, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's correct.
All right. Are you going to be the one timing the 3 minutes, or do you want me to give someone else that?
Yeah, you know what? If you wouldn't mind giving somebody else, whether it's Judy or maybe even Michelle, it's up to them. But I just don't want to be trying to moderate, having somebody come in and stuff like that
Right.
at the same time. So as long as somebody else is okay with it, that'd be great, just to make it a little easier.
All right. That'll
I
be
mean,
fine. No, because it's kind
I
of hard
could,
with people coming in. I
yeah.
prefer. So let me, just assign somebody else to time.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, and then are you planning on, you don't need to so much maybe with the work session, but with the board agenda, can you share that on the screen so everyone can see it?
Yep, I can put that up. Actually, I was just about to put up the work session right now. So,
Oh, okay, if that's fine. Yep.
yep. Okay, yeah, and another thing I'm doing is, if anyone like on the board has, just the name that they used when they set up Zoom,
No need to extra push down real hard.
I'm changing it to say who the actual person is. For example, Deputy Mayor David, so that everyone is aware of that.
That's a great idea, just so we're clear about.
Together,
Yeah.
sesame oil and vinegar.
Oh, Deb didn't. Okay. So I think we're waiting for, it looks like for Judy and Trustee Torrey and Trustee Carson.
Thank you.
Yep, and we have Chip coming in, and we have Trustee Carson.
Okay.
Just want to say, hey, everyone. Good to see you.
Matt,
How you doing?
Keaton, when we have all the board members on, and Judy, will you let me know?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Eileen is joining right now.
Okay, so Eileen is on. What about, is Judy on yet?
No, Judy is not on yet.
Okay. It's 6:01. Let's give her another minute.
Okay.
I'll text her.
Okay. Oh, she's coming in right now.
Okay. Okay, it looks like we've got everyone on.
Yep, it looks like it.
Okay, Judy, can you hear me?
Yes.
Do we have the individual who's transcribing this on?
No, she'll do it after.
She'll do, okay, all right, got it. Okay, all right, so let's get started. I'll welcome everyone to the Village of Williamsville work session for Monday, January 24th. We have no guests this evening. We'll start with correspondence. Does anyone have anything they wish to discuss?
I do.
Trustee Torre?
Yes, thank you. I have not received written requests, but verbal requests by village residents who'd like to see the December 13 village board meeting, which was recorded, posted to our website. And I mentioned it to Keaton, and Keaton suggested I bring it to the board. And if you all approve, we can go ahead and post it.
Thoughts on that, board members?
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Yeah, Keaton, is that the one that you and I, or maybe it was a bunch of us on the same email, discussed about whether or not it was recorded and whether or not it was posted, or is that a different meeting?
Yeah, Eileen had emailed about it last week. And the December 13th meeting, as well as a meeting in late October, they were recorded, but they were only recorded because I accidentally didn't unclick record. The only reason that they were recorded and Zoom was used was because Judy was out. So we zoomed her in so that she could be present and take, but I leave it up to the board. Going with precedent, I didn't post it because I didn't post the October meeting either. So
Well,
totally up to the
yes,
board.
I'd just like to add to that, since I've received many requests and we as a village board have absolutely nothing to hide. We can add it to the other recordings that are already posted. I don't see a problem with it.
Sure, I mean, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Is anybody on the board opposed to it?
No, I believe it should be posted. As Eileen said, we have nothing to hide, and they were recorded, so they should be public.
That's fine with me. You can go ahead and let's get those posted then.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great.
Anything else? Any other
Yeah,
correspondence?
I'll put them up tomorrow. Like I said, it was, just kind of a fluke. I forgot to unclick.
It's
Okay.
okay.
There's a lot of settings on Zoom, and it's kind of a fluke that we have the recording. So, but yeah, we'll put it up. No big deal.
Thank you.
Anything
welcome.
Anything else, Trustee Torre?
No correspondence. Well, but whatever. No, I'm good. Thank you.
I know there's been some, a lot of emails and stuff, so yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Anything from Trustee Hunt? Any correspondence?
No, nothing that we haven't all received, pretty much in email.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Sherman,
Nothing at this time.
Trustee Carson.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, so let's go into grants updates. Keaton, would you like to give us an update?
Sure. I don't have my full notes with me. I apologize, but I can do some of it from memory, and maybe Ben and Judy can kind of help me out. I'm kind of displaced here and there. I'm staying at my mom's with right now with the boys. My wife contracted COVID last week, so I'm just
So sorry.
we're taking. She's okay, thank you though. But it's so we're just taking some precautionary measures, and without much warning. Obviously, I had some paperwork with me, but obviously some of it is still in my office. So anyway, that aside, we had a very insightful, productive meeting with the office that determined that we did not receive the $4.75 million grant that would have helped out for our sewer infrastructure slash changeover into Amherst. So a lot of the points that we did not receive were because the state.
You froze, Keaton.
Uh-oh. Keaton, you're frozen. I wish I knew some hand signals.
Okay, let me text him.
Okay. I wish I had one of those little chalkboards. Frozen.
I know.
Yeah, I think it's his bandwidth. I had that problem a couple meetings ago, remember?
Yeah.
Had to come back in, leave and come back in.
You know, what's funny is the chat's disabled too, because usually you just put it in the chat, but you can't even do that.
I just texted him. So let's Ben or Judy, do you just want to pick up where Keaton was leaving off? And
Yeah, I can. Sure. A lot of it has to do with the fact that we don't have a consent order. The Department of Environmental Conservation sees our system as functioning adequately. There was also a pretty high point value given to the need to pre-treat our sewage, which is something that we don't do. So that it was kind of geared towards communities that required high levels of pretreatment. There was an issue with the readiness to do the project. I guess I gathered maybe from reading between the lines that they almost wanted you to have a project started.
Even though they tell you don't start a project because you're not going to get reimbursed for those expenses.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of going out on the limb, I think, Judy, you basically have to put the money out, knowing that it won't be reimbursed, in order to make it look like we are, gung ho and ready to go.
Mhm.
And there was high percentage points given to those municipalities that stressed they were working on sanitation projects, keeping things clean and sanitized around their village, their municipality. Aside, this is like just not for the sewers, but just general.
Like COVID sanitize? Is that what you mean,
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Our bathrooms require COVID sanitation. I mean,
Right.
right? Could we have those points in writing so we can review them? If we could just send them to the board, I'd like to look at them in writing so I can look at them more closely. Is that doable?
I can pull my notes and put something together.
Even
Yeah.
just bullet points. Yeah, that would be good because I'm trying to make notes there, and I prefer some bullet points with the accurate information.
All of the required points are listed with the original CFA application.
Okay.
They're right there in that document.
Even
Yeah, I
these
didn't write down,
where
I
we
didn't
were
write down
lacking
all the
bit.
points. I just basically wrote down the things that they were looking for and where we may have had shortfalls. So
That's fine. I'd still like to read those.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, where we were lacking.
we can send you the 2021 CFA application. And again, it's outlined right there in that document.
Okay, that's too bad though. Yeah, it's such a
Yeah,
shame.
it is.
So I'm sorry, like what like when you talk about sanitation, I'm not sure I fully understand what I'm envisioning, our DPW crew walking around with like backpacks with like spraying mechanisms, spraying the playground equipment. Is that what you're referring to? When you
That
say
would probably be part of it. They didn't really go into explaining what these other places got. I don't know if I have. Not sure where my notes are right this minute, but
okay, well, I'll tell you what,
Not right,
let's do this.
not right now.
We have the CFA, the bullet points on that trustees Hunt and Torrey are requesting, and anyone else who wants them as well. I guess I'd like to maybe just see, maybe you could just copy, on the copy machine, your notes, and just kind of looking at those, what were some of the things that we missed? And then for next year, we can huddle up and see where we're at with that.
I agree, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so-
it changes every year because we had a meeting last year after we didn't get it. And we had a list of things that we needed to do better on this year, which we did. And I myself had conversation with someone from the DEC who told me that we were in really good shape and really expected us to get it.
Mhm.
So, but then it goes to the final decision makers and they change what they're looking for.
Okay. Keaton, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I was just going to say, I concur with everything that Ben and Judy have said, and it's highly disappointing, when you go into it and we think we have a legitimate shot, but I don't know if I missed a couple minutes there. I had to relocate in the room. There must have been a dead spot in the corner of the room I was in for internet, but I didn't know if it was said that it was highly competitive this year. And due to that fact, like I did mention, a lot of the denominations that were given out were lower than what we were asking for. So it was a highly competitive year because of no grants being awarded the previous year in 2020. So I'd expect it to also be a highly competitive year this year. We're not quite, we're not too far removed from 2020 yet, where people are municipalities are starting to catch up. So I would say that this year would again be highly competitive. So anything we put out there has to be, all our I's are dotted and T's are crossed, because it's going to be competitive again. So that's all I would add. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any additional grant updates? If not, we'll move on.
Think so.
None other than that.
Okay.
That was the only one since the January 10th meeting that we needed to get updated on. So.
Okay. Let's go over agenda
Thank you.
review. You're welcome. Thanks, Keaton. The one thing I think that there's been a lot of emails swirling around. I just want to make sure that there aren't any questions or concern with Trustee Torrey's resolution regarding the Erie County Department of Health stipulation. So if there are questions on that resolution, now is really the time to ask, because otherwise we'll be putting forth the resolution and taking a vote on it. Are there any questions or comments or concerns? Or for that matter, for anything else?
On my resolution?
Yes, Trustee Torrey. Yep.
On my, no, I don't. I realized we're putting this forth because our last meeting, we couldn't vote on it.
That's
And I think so that's why we're doing it. The only question I had, a question on was the resolution number 4 by Mayor Rogers. I just have a couple of questions on that, please.
Sure.
I realize that we're going Zoom as we are presently, but I do have a lot of committees, not a lot. I have a few committee members and as well as committee chair people who don't Zoom. And this is an issue for me. So I'd like to request that I can still access the Village Hall and have the meetings fully masked with these particular individuals.
Okay, so I do have a resolution put forth tonight to take our meetings remote. And I guess that will be something that the board will need to decide on this evening via a vote. But the reason I put forth this resolution is because I'm just concerned about the inability of us to enforce the mask mandate. And as I'm stating in the resolution, I don't want to put the village taxpayers potentially on the line for something that we may not be able to enforce at those meetings. And that is hence why I'm putting forth this resolution. So I guess, if somebody else on the board has a comment or would like to address this, now's the time.
Yeah, I do. Not all members of the committees and the commission and the other two boards, the zoning board and the planning board, they may not all have the ability to connect, whether it's just the technology or whatever. So I really think hybrid is a good option for those people. So I really think we should offer a hybrid as we have in the past.
The problem with hybrid is either Keaton or Tim have to come in to set it up and get it running. And most of the time, they are not at those meetings.
Right, but isn't it Keaton's responsibility as in his position? Is if when we were hybrid in 2020, when I was doing some of the HPC meetings that way, it was not a problem. I've done a couple of meetings like that in the
Say
past.
so, but I don't mean to interject. You could say so, but right now I'm in quarantine. So, I mean, there's always something that, there's always a circumstance, I mean, it's tricky, so.
Right, but isn't Tim your
Judy,
backup right now?
Deb and I were talking on Friday. What's that?
Isn't Tim your backup, like for right now while you're in quarantine?
That just depends on Tim's
really.
availability. I mean,
And it's not really part of Tim's job.
No, Tim's requirement would be there for the planning board, and what other committee would he, be required? I know he's there for our planning board meetings. I believe he's there for zoning. So I guess my concern, Trustee Hunt, is just the fact that because these meetings, if they are hybrid and Village Hall is open, that means anyone can attend. And my concern is that if there are people who attend and they are perhaps, let's just say, not wearing a mask, then we're potentially putting all of the village taxpayers at risk of another stipulation, something that I guess, how would that trustee enforce that? I guess that would maybe be my question to.
Well, in my particular case, it's basically the Glen Park Joint Board. I would assure the board right here, right now, if I had a in-house meeting at Village Hall, that everybody will be fully masked.
Even those guests who might show up in attendance?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so I know Glen
you
Park.
could always
Joint
meet
Board-
at town hall.
Yeah, they typically meet at town hall. Would that be an option to meet at town hall for them?
I could ask if they're available for those days, but if they're not available, I want to make sure that, our conference room is available or our auditorium. So yes, there's an option. We can do that. But if not, I'd like to be able to fall back on, our place, if that's okay.
I have there's an HPC meeting tomorrow, and it's just it's not really an option for Mary Lowther, who's the chair, to be on a Zoom meeting because she doesn't have that capability at her home. So I don't.
I mean, I feel bad for that, We're kind of in a bind here. I mean, I'm not out in the community again until Thursday after I take a test on Wednesday to make sure that I don't have any, what's it called? Any,
That's positive.
Right. Would it be possible
yeah, exactly.
that, then when you're out of quarantine, would it be possible just at least to consider HPC and, Glen Park Board, if they to have hybrid or in-person meetings?
So I guess my question is I think, we have a resolution on the agenda for tonight, and I think every board member should vote accordingly. But I am just going to say this, we've been dealing with COVID now for about 2 years. And I haven't heard of anybody not having the ability when we were mandated by former Governor Cuomo to have no choice, and our meetings were 100% remote. So I don't feel like this question in 2 years has ever been posed, because everybody has always managed to find access somehow via Zoom. And
no, that's not true, because Glen Park just canceled them and we waited till the weather was better. We went outdoors. So
Okay, thank you for, clarifying that, but I guess, I have a resolution on, I think that unless Chip, as our attorney, has a comment on this, I'm just gonna leave the resolution as it stands and let the board members vote respectively. So
Okay.
Chip, do you have a comment on
Well,
this?
the only thing I'll comment, I mean, it's, the village, all municipalities are now currently authorized, if they want to, they don't have to, under the current state law, to conduct remote meetings and to exclude the public if they want. And it's appropriate. I don't have an issue with the village board adopting a policy with respect to the use of village hall or village property for that purpose, because the village board has the management of the village property. But I will point out, so I mean, one thing I haven't heard as a potential, just again, for your consideration, so it's really a decision for the board. But keep in mind, you could possibly have authorized in-person meetings by the board while excluding the public, so long as the public has access to the meeting, either via Zoom or by telephone or some other form where they can listen or see what's happening in that meeting. So that's another potential way to do it. So it's not all or nothing. It's not everyone has to be remote or everyone has to be in person. It can be that way, but it also could be simply excluding the public. But if you do that under the current law, you have to allow the public to you have to stream it basically, or have a conference call line that people can call and listen to the meeting.
This is only through February 15th, correct?
Presently, yeah. So it's now, instead of a date certain, it's tied to the governor's most recent emergency declaration, which that is currently when it is set to expire. But the way they drafted this law, the most recently adopted version, it is now tied to any extensions of that. So yes, presently it's through February 14th or 15th, I think. But if that
Yeah.
emergency declaration gets renewed, it'll automatically renew as well.
All right. And Deb, just to clarify for HPC, when we were fully remote and I was the chair, I would provide Mary with the option to be on Zoom. We were together.
Okay.
So that's the way we did it. As liaison, I don't think it would be appropriate for me to provide that access. So I really, really.
Why? I guess I'm not sure why that would be inappropriate.
Well, I don't know. Is it appropriate, Chip, for me to just like provide her the Zoom access and that's her only option?
Are you saying you think it's inappropriate? Yeah, I mean, I think you're the new trustee liaison when you need to know HPC for that. And I think that's very kind of you to help, and I know you have done that in the past for Mary. And I don't see, unless Chip says there's some inappropriateness to that. I mean, I think it's just really a neighbor helping out a neighbor. So, but I'll let Chip answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I see anything inappropriate about you providing. I'm not sure, is the concern that because you're a trustee, somehow it would be inappropriate for you to allow the.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm not crossing a line between trustee liaison and, just providing access to.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't see that, but I don't see why that would be inappropriate.
Chip, I have a question as well. It's Eileen.
Sure.
Now, is this a mandate the state put out, or they're leaving it to the municipalities as a choice?
It's a choice. It's absolutely a choice. I mean, that's the way it's always been. I mean, let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
During the 2020, for quite a while in 2020, it was always an option for public meetings. It was mandated for public hearings just because they, there wasn't a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it. But it came out in 2 different executive orders. So for a while, it actually was mandated, but only for public hearings. This current law is for public meetings in general, which would encompass public hearings now, because there's no counterpart to what existed in 2020 with respect to public hearings, and a public hearing is a public meeting. So the short answer to your question is yes, this is not a mandate from the state. This would be a policy decision of the village board to decide that they want to use that authority and conduct those meetings for as long as they have that authority, or for as long as it's the policy of the village board. And that's all for you to decide. That's what this resolution is. You have the authority to do it. No, the state is not mandating that you do remote meetings.
So if I'm opposed to this, does that, and it's voted 3-2, for example, again, it overrides my wishes to hold a meeting in Village Hall. I can't do it, or I still can.
Yeah, no, I don't. So again, the village, under the New York State Village Law, the village board, the language is shall have the management of village property. So if the village board or a majority of the village board decides that they do not want to allow in-person meetings on village property, at least for the time being, yeah, I would say you or everybody is bound by that, unless and until the village board, a majority of the village board, concludes otherwise.
But I don't think it really says that in this resolution, though. It doesn't say actual property, does it?
Says closure of Village Hall by order.
It says, therefore be it resolved that all village meetings will be held remote until further notice. So that would be all village meetings.
But then it also says if where does it go? Where you say if they can or whatever.
So long as
If everyone
public
has the
ability.
ability to view or listen to such,
Right.
if they have the ability. But for example, my board does not have the ability, my Glen Park Joint Board.
Well,
So
so I don't.
Nobody has a phone.
The ability, the village's obligation is to provide, as long as there's a telephone number somebody can call, put on a speakerphone or a Zoom link, that's all the village needs to do.
I'm
not sure, and again, I'm not expressing any opinion on the policy here, that's up to you guys, but I don't believe that the village has to allow somebody into Village Hall if the majority of the board decides otherwise, on the claim that they cannot access a telephone or a computer.
well, we have a lot of documentations that we always, look through, pictures.
Oh, I'm not, yeah, no, I
that type
get
of
it, and
thing.
that's a totally legitimate, yep, so that's a
Right.
policy, like I say, that's that it's definitely can be harder. I don't doubt that at all, so.
Well, I can ask that to make an exception for my Glen Park Joint Board. May I ask that?
You can ask whatever you want. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask for that exception for HBC. I just don't, my only concern is that I don't want to exclude some of our more mature residents and volunteers.
Yeah, that's all, as I said, that's something that you guys are gonna have to decide how you want to handle this. All I can tell you is what you legally can do. And I don't think there's a legal prohibition on the village requiring meetings to be remote because it has the authority to do that under the current law. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
So I'm
I
not
appreciate that.
commenting on whether or not that's the right policy or not. That's for you all to decide.
Mhm.
Right.
No, I understand.
And my concern, and I understand, Trustee Hunt, Trustee Torrey, your concerns with the volunteers, but my concern is one that comes from the Erie County Department of Health, that if there are additional violations, essentially what the letter says is that they can actually can result in the closure of Village Hall. And I just, number one, I wouldn't want to see that happen, because not only would it affect every resident, it would affect our day-to-day running of Village Hall as well. And that is my biggest concern, is how do we actually, police the fact that while your committees may very well be abiding, 100% by the current mask mandate that's in place, if the building is open for a public meeting, that means it needs to be able to be accessed by additional members of the public. And I just don't want to put any of the board members in that precarious situation, and or, be forced to somehow, enforce that said mandate. And that is really the only reason why I even have this resolution on here this evening.
Okay, well, I just wanted clarification, and thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I did want to get into Trustee Torrey's resolution, because I know that's been the butt of many emails that we've all received. And I just want to make sure that there aren't any questions or concerns. Trustee Torrey will be bringing that to the floor during her reports and resolutions. And if any of the board members have a concern or, a thought on that, and they want to discuss it, now would be the time to do so. And I'll open it up for that. Anyone? We're good? Okay.
I think it's been talked aplenty.
Okay. All right. Then, is there anything else on the agenda review that anyone else wants to go over?
Why is
No?
this already on?
Okay. And then let's go on to reports and actions. And I just want to give a park update. So I actually sat in at the parks meeting. Trustee Carson was not available to. And I did get some questions that were not previously answered. I did get those answers at the parks meeting. And this week I will be meeting with Trustee Carson, Ben Villanen, and Keaton DePriest to kind of give them an update as to what those decisions were by the Parks Committee. They did finalize what type of striping they would like to see on the 2 courts that are going in. They gave clarification on what style of pavilion will be going in at South Lawn Park. And we also talked a little bit about we also talked to
reduce South Lawn Park.
I'm sorry.
Keaton, you gotta mute people, please. Somebody's not muted.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's Debbie Steinbrucker, or no, it looks like she's muted now. That one was on.
So we are doing those updates, and I have drawings and I have notes on them. I'm not obviously going to be able to share them on the screen here tonight, but I'll get that all turned over to Trustee Carson, and we're going to keep moving forward with the parks updates at South Lawn. The Island Park Pavilion mural, I did ask our board and anyone else who has thoughts or ideas. I also threw the idea out to the Parks Committee. They were very receptive to the idea. And there was a individual on the committee that was perhaps tied into some local village artists. And we're waiting to kind of get more information on that. So I would like to keep that project, on the front burner. And my hope is that we can get a mural on the interior of that pavilion late spring, early summer this year.
Can we talk about our ideas?
Yes, we can talk about ideas.
Real quick too, guys. Sorry, I just wanted to apologize for missing that meeting. I had a good friend's.
That's fine. You don't have to apologize.
No, well, I had a funeral, and I felt so bad because it was my first meeting, so I would have made it there if I could.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I just want to say I did give it some thought on the mural, and the first things that came to my mind when I think of Island Park are families, children, happiness, sunshine, playing, all the good things that make our life happy. And the second thing that came to mind immediately was old home days. So I was playing with those 2 ideas. And my first idea, since the pavilion faces the wall, faces the rear of the park, which nobody really sees, I thought maybe we could paint the back, that part of the park on the mural. Okay, like this, something like this. Okay, and then I thought we could fill the park with many diverse children playing, you know, playing ball, sitting around, picnicking. Because I'm not sure we're going to keep with the diversity theme,
Yeah. So
but I
is
thought
that,
that'd be really cute, you know?
Eileen, is that for the interior underneath the pavilion, or you talk, because there's two walls, there's the interior underneath the pavilion?
The interior underneath.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I like those initial thoughts. I think it's fun. It's gonna be the ability to be colorful and, you know, have
And,
movement in it.
the idea of using children, I think, is wonderful, you know, because children are so innocent in their way of thinking, and they accept everybody and everything. So I'd like to keep it in the theme of the children and family, and then of course our beautiful park, you know, in the background. Those are my ideas, and then we can have everyone is welcome to Island Park. You know, we want to use the name, and we can, and that would use as the selfie thing, because we're also thinking about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I like that. Okay.
That's a good idea. I like that. I like the idea of making the back a wall just an extension of the park. What you would see,
Yeah.
there's no longer a wall there, it's park. You know, the idea of what you would see if there were no wall there. There were no pavilion. That's a good
because
idea.
it's so
Eileen.
beautiful back there. You know how it leads around the creek? I love it. It's just so gorgeous. So we can extend it. So people come and look, they know, oh yeah, that's the back of the park, which we never see because everybody kind of stops at the pavilion. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that was
good
my
thought.
idea. Or the other idea I was thinking we could do a theme, an old home days theme. That's another thing, which
That's
people
what I was actually thinking, like a festival
Yeah.
kind of theme, because, you know, we have a lot of festivals in the village, you know, all
Right.
days, right? So, yeah.
Those are
I
my two
like those,
thoughts.
yeah. Well, I think they're great thoughts. I think we should toss those around and add to those and keep that conversation going. And, you know, we should, I mean, are we still thinking we want to put out, you know, some type of like a sketch and maybe a couple different ideas? And are we getting like a community vote on that? You know, Keaton could put together like a survey monkey maybe and get people's thoughts or ideas. And is that kind of what we're thinking still? I mean, I'm just throwing the question out there.
Well, I wasn't sure because initially we're thinking of the flag and the diversity thing, remember?
Yeah,
That
and
was
then I
one
thought we
initial
were gonna
thought. Yep.
Yeah.
thought
So
we
I
were
don't know
going
how, I'm sorry.
get renderings from the artists.
Mhm.
At one point, that was the direction we were gonna go in. And maybe, you know, just giving them the idea of what we were looking for, but let them come in with their own rendering. But after seeing that idea of Eileen's, I kind of like that. And then between that and the, you know, Matt with the festivals, we could actually have that background and some tents or whatever, and the kids and some rides. And we could really throw all that in there and just find the right artist for it, for that type of work. And it could be the destination, you know, festival destination, or, you know, kind of theme, because we do have a lot of things that go on in that park. So you have to talk that around, how we want to approach that again.
Right. And I think, Trustee Hunt, you bring up a good point. I think if we can come together and throw the ideas, what we ultimately would like to see on the background, I think it would be good to give those ideas to an artist who would be painting it and designing it, because ultimately, you know, if they're going to be the one doing it, they're going to need to have buy-in to it as well and be able to put our ideas onto the wall, if you will, right?
Right.
Right.
So, and I think, and I like, you know, have something with like a selfie station too. I know Trustee Tori, you mentioned that as well. And I think that's a great idea, because we do live in a world where people seem to be doing those selfies a lot. And it would be nice to have some kind of a point, you know, where they could stand in front of the pavilion with friends or family and be able to get that picture. So
those angel wings are really popular for the selfies these days. I don't know how that would incorporate with those ideas, but something. to that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and this is what I want. I mean, I want all of us and anybody in the community who has thoughts, they can email us. And what we should start doing is putting together this list of bullet points of, the bullet points that we want the artist to hit, right? And then the artists can kind of use their creativity to pull all of that together and offer us up a design, right? And then we can kind of use that like something tangible to look at and say, we like this, we don't like this, we want this, we don't want that.
Correct.
So where does this project live? Is this a board thing or is this a parks thing?
No, it's a board thing.
It kind of, it's at the board. I threw it out to Parks to give them an update of what we were discussing, and I think they were familiar with it from earlier, but I just wanted to bring them up to speed that we were still this was still something that we would like to see happen, and if possible we'd like to see it happen this year. So
yes, and I certainly want to get that dedication going too.
yes, sooner than later. So, yeah,
please.
Okay. Yeah, we will. So that's all I have on the mural, but can we, Eileen, could you maybe jot down let's get an email going amongst our board, and if you could just put those bullet points of thoughts and ideas together on an email, send it to everyone, and then everyone should add their thoughts and ideas and do a reply all, and let's get this circulating. Okay. So that'll be our jumping off point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chip, the next 3 items, do you have any updates for me on?
Hang on, sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
No, I do not. Well, sewer we talked about earlier.
Yep.
But no, I don't have anything on either of those easements.
Okay. All right, like I said, I'm just gonna leave those on there so they don't get lost.
Understood.
Somewhere. Okay.
I'll follow up on them.
All right, and then that's all I have, so I'll turn it over to Trustee Carson.
This might be random, sorry. But, since I started going to the website, a few years ago, I always thought, I'm a computer guy, I'm in IT. I thought it was a little strange that our website was walkablewilliamsville.com. Now, I have nothing against that. However, at first, I didn't think that it was the official website, because most government websites have something a little more official than that. So I just kind of wanted to bring up the conversation of, you can easily keep both of them, but is there a reason why we have that? And is it worth pursuing having a more, like williamsville.ny.us, you know what I mean? Just so, because honestly, the first time, like I said, I was really like, is this just someone's random page or is this the actual official village website?
Well,
that's Matt,
point.
Go ahead. Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because a lot of people have difficulty navigating our page. Where they're searching for something. I personally even found it easier if I go to Google, type in what I'm looking for, the village of Williamsville, and then it finds it for me on our webpage. So if we could somehow make it easier for everybody in terms of usage, I would totally applaud that. Now, it sounds like to me, you want to make it more professional maybe, or more governmental. Is that what you're seeking?
More official, how about that?
More official, exactly.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But easier to navigate, perhaps? And tied in with the officiality? It's really not easy.
The navigation piece is a different conversation. I actually don't know like the bones of it, how it's set up, So that's, that's a separate but tied topic, if you will, So, but I don't even know who I would talk, I'm happy to pursue this if people are interested in it, but I figured I would throw it out there.
It's been out there for many years.
For the website URLs.
I'm not sure who started it, but Nate Anderson had a big play in it when it was originated. And then Keaton has just basically been keeping it up. But as for navigating, I mean, it's not the most easiest, but it's a lot easier than many, many other municipalities, including the town. The town is awful. to navigate.
Yeah, I don't like the towns either.
It's
but,
horrible.
I have used
Well, it's-
other village sites, and you're right. The others do look more official now when I think about it. You know, they do. And but again, that depends on what we as a village, if you want to go that direction. It's not, I know what you're saying, Matt. I just gotten so used to it at this point. I haven't
Right.
thought about it really.
I don't want you to miss my point here, though. It's literally the URL.
Yeah, the URL itself. Yeah, the URL itself was initiated during Brian Culpa's era. It was a way to further the Picture Main Street efforts and kind of connect the dots between having a walkable village and a renewed Main Street. And it was also during an era of Safe Routes to School, which was grants for sidewalks, again, walkable. So in the mindset back then, it was kind of necessary to almost make it almost a branding, to brand us as Walkable Williamsville, because that's what we wanted to become, and that's what we still want to become. We still have more efforts to do, obviously. So I've often wondered, how far do we take it? We're already looking probably 2012, 13, somewhere in there. So we're going on 10 years of it being Walkable Williamsville. I've often wondered, how far out do we take it? You know, we still own the other URL, you know, the .ny.us, that's still ours. It's just that the one we use every day is walkablewilliamsville.com. So I've often wondered myself when the changeover should happen, or if it should ever happen, because, you know, we are still trying to do projects and apply for grants that are centered around the community plan, which Brian Culpa and his staff built back then. And the community plan has such aspects in it as the Greenway, which is connection points all around the village, connecting to recreational trails, parks, etc. And we just put out a grant application for that. And, you know, when you apply for a grant, asking for money that is to be a connection of all different points in a certain village, and you're calling yourselves the Walkable Village, it does look good. It does help out. But like I said, I have no idea when it should end myself. I have no advice on that, but I can tell you it does come in useful for grants. And, you know, when, you know, there's people who are maybe new to the community. Oh, the website's Walkable Williamsville. That sounds cool. You know, that sounds nice. You know, so they're walkable. It's not just what I see down the road, 40-mile-an-hour traffic. What else do they have? You know, so
Okay.
so it's
Well,
kind
that
of
makes
a
sense.
it's kind of a
Yeah.
toss up that the board will have to kind of figure out in the future. I guess, you know, it's
Yeah.
you know.
So,
And then
I
as-
mean,
as
it's good to
far-
hear
as
that
far
we
as the-
have the official URL as well. You know, can you
Yeah.
email that to me at some point, Keaton? Like that was
Sure.
again kind of my concern. I just wanted to make sure that we had like, you know, more of the standardized things. So I was curious about that.
Right. Yeah, and through Google, we optimized through Google so that it's all. I believe it was during my predecessors, when Maggie was here, she optimized through Google so that it was fully done as Walkable Williamsville. That, you know, if you put something else in there, Walkable Williamsville comes up right away. Judy just brought that to my attention. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing saying it can't be changed. There's nothing saying that the website can't be completely redone. You know, the problem with that is, you know, the board would have to look at, you know, you probably want to put out an RFP for somebody to do it. I'm not sure how it worked last time. I don't know if Nate Anderson did it on his own accord. It's kind of a volunteer service, because back then he was heavily involved in youth and rec. But, you know, it might be something to talk to him about. Yeah.
He was approached and he provided us with pricing.
Yeah.
But I don't know what his profession is at the time. I believe he worked at M&T and he was doing it
Yeah.
on the side.
Yeah. So he basically built the website, and I mean, there's nothing saying we can't ask him to redo it or somebody else to redo it.
Matt,
So-
is that something you can work on, or is that a huge job? Could you work on something and send us examples, or is that just not doable?
Well, it's not really like an expertise of mine. I was
Oh.
just approaching it as, just from my previous experience with the website. So I guess
Okay.
maybe we can just sit on this for now and like we can think about it maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
And
That's what I was going to suggest, that because I don't think this is a decision we can make this evening,
Right.
but I
No.
would encourage, I think it should stay on the work session agenda and we can kind of mull over it. And, maybe there are residents on tonight who might have a very strong thought one way or another. And if they want to email us or call us and give us their thoughts on that, then we can take it and just keep it an open discussion.
yeah.
Good.
Um,
I agree.
mhm.
Yeah, that's
Another item on here,
about it.
the late coming. Sorry, Christine, go.
Oh, no, I just said it's a good way to go about it. We can just keep it a work in progress. And see, because Keaton does make a good point. We are walkable Williamsville, so people are used to that in a way. So, and it
Yeah.
is what we want to portray.
Yeah, I don't
think.
hate that at all. It's just, and I'm glad to hear we have the other one, so we might be able to use them both in tandem. So, okay. My other thing that I was kind of late to bring up, sorry about that, was it was from the planning board, and they are concerned that they aren't getting materials quick enough, right? So, and this happened while I was on the planning board all the time. We would get things at the 11th hour, have a meeting, the next day or two, and didn't have a chance to, review the materials and, go visit the site, all that kind of stuff. So, it was a concern they brought up to me to bring to everyone. I think all that really needs to happen basically is if they miss the timeline, they just don't get, they have to get pushed a month, right? I think that's the solution, but, open for comments, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Where does the problem lie exactly? Why the information is not received to the planning board? Is it in-house or is it out of house?
Outhouse.
Yeah, I would say it's primarily a function of the applicants not getting stuff in the time frame in which they're supposed to. I would also say, though, I do think that there may be a little bit of it, but much less of it is maybe in-house, in the sense I do think there's maybe some capacity, we talked a little bit about this before, a little bit of a capacity issue, I think, in that department. They've got a lot going on. But it has definitely been a tendency of applicants to, they need to oftentimes be pushed to get the stuff to us, and I think that Tim tries to be accommodating when he can, to get them on the agenda. But yeah, it's definitely been an issue, and it's been an issue for quite a while.
Mhm.
I would say, going back years and years and years. But yeah, so that's really an issue of how hard of a line I guess the department or the board wants to take with applicants.
Well, in my opinion,
Oh, go ahead, Laura.
yeah, I mean, Mr. Master should not be forced to get something out because the applicant, took forever to get to it. That's not our problem. If they don't submit it in time, Mr. Master should not feel pressured to complete it, and it should be postponed till the following month, period.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. If it's the applicant, and I saw it with HPC, not getting the material in a timely fashion, then we just don't take action on it. We just say we're gonna table it, which is an action, so it won't get overlooked, but just take the action of tabling it till the next meeting when people have time to look at it. And then people might get stuff in sooner.
Yeah, I agree with the trustees Tori and Hunt both that, the reason you have a deadline is just that, it's the cutoff line. And I know that we've, as a small village, we try to afford, individuals who are coming in front of the planning board some leeway if we're able to. But if we're now getting, if that's now becoming an issue for our planning board members and they're not able to, fairly understand with enough time what it is that they're discussing and potentially deciding on that evening, then we need to enforce that deadline. So I'll have a conversation with Tim tomorrow and just kind of telling him that we had this discussion and that, going forward, we are going to have to adhere to those deadlines. And hopefully that'll help then with the ability to get the materials out to the planning board members in a timely fashion.
Yeah, and tell Tim it's okay to say no.
Yeah, yeah.
It's okay.
Will do. I'll quote you on it.
Thanks.
All right. So I'll reach out to Tim tomorrow and address that. And we'll see if that, hopefully that'll help with that situation and issue.
Yep, that's all for me. Thanks.
Okay. Trustee Hunt?
I have no updates on either the symphony orchestra or arts and culture at this time.
Okay. Trustee Sherman?
A couple updates from my liaison committee assignments. Youth and Rec is having a sledding party at Glen Park this Saturday, 1 to 4. And if you've been by there lately, you'll see that the DPW created a mini Mount Everest for sledders. It's awesome.
A very dirty mountain.
Well, that's true. But at least there's snow. So anyway, that's this Saturday. There's going to be a snow sculpture contest. The DPW is going to set up fire pits and provide the firewood. And there's rumors of a s'mores eating contest as well. So that is this Saturday. And then they're looking ahead to March 4th would be the first movie at the Meeting House. Because now that we are under the umbrella of the town, we can make use of their, it's not a permit, I forget what it was called. License, very good, thank you. So it's a movie with which I am not familiar, but it's called Mitchell's versus the Machines. Anybody?
No.
Okay, well, it's rated PG, so I think we're okay. So that's for Youth and Rec. WBA, Eddie Tice wasn't there at the last meeting. However, they did establish the schedule for Music on Main to be June 2nd through September 1st. So that's good to see that they're going forward already. And just as an aside, one of our past presidents of the fire company passed away, Joe Burden. He was president and chairman of the board at different times in the 80s, and really was a very well-educated man. I think he was 83 when he passed last week. I don't know anything about services because that's how it is these days. But he did a lot of work, behind the scenes, and we'll miss him too. That's all I have.
Oh, Trustee Sherman, just have a question. The advertising for the sledding party, I haven't seen anything. What am I missing?
So I can say that we are putting the sign up on the marquee out front, and that should hopefully go up tomorrow. So we'll be advertising it on the marquee. And other than that, I'll let Keaton, if there's any updates on that.
Yeah, I got very delayed between my personal at-home situation with COVID and all the special meeting stuff and everything else that was going on last week. So it'll be out tomorrow. Generally, with Youth and Rec kind of changing its course and really wanting to not downsize, but have a specific amount of community members attending rather than an overall outreach of multiple communities attending, this should fit within that realm. So it'll go out tomorrow. It'll be blasted, and everything will be all set throughout the week.
Thank
So,
you. And I'll
you'll see
share
it.
it on Facebook when you post it on Facebook.
Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, trustee Torrey?
I have nothing on the section house unless Ben does. Ben, do you have anything on the section house?
Yeah, sure. We've wrapped up this current round of CDBG funded work. The
Cool.
we've, as I mentioned at the last meeting, the joints have been cut in the stucco. We've done a little bit of, I almost want to call it, you have to call it experimental work on the stucco to figure out how exactly we're going to maintain it and preserve it. And I'm looking for guidance now that it looks like Christine Hunt, Trustee Hunt will be on historic preservation. We're looking for just a little bit of guidance on what the end game and end result here is with the architect. There's some, I know that you're familiar with the conditions report. I think that you and I should get together to kind of hash over what does historic preservation ultimately see, and what does the board as a whole see as the end game with this building, because we need to keep that in sight as we are working on it. There's some openings that we could reopen, some old, historic doors and windows that were plastered over. What does the floor plan look like? So these are
Right.
Wonderful.
We're well on our way to understanding how we're going to preserve it, but we need to know what we're going to do with it when it's preserved. So that's kind of that's it on the section house.
Very good. Yeah, Ben, let's get together and catch up on those items. You mentioned shoot you an email with a couple of ideas just to bring me up to speed on it as Trustee Ichu was more involved, former Deputy Mayor Ichu was involved with that and I wasn't. So I need to be brought up to speed on that. So I'd appreciate that.
Yep, available via Zoom anytime.
Excellent.
And I think anyone who steps in that building has to wear period clothes only. Period.
I'm gonna have to look at the union contract on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for taking care of it,
clothing.
though. Love it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Oh, we do have now the gutters up on the Knoll Nature Pavilion. So that project is complete, which is
And
exciting.
I have not seen a leak. I've been in there many
Yay.
times with melting snow, and so I knock on wood. I got a hard head.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that it's watertight.
Yeah. Thank you. It looks great. Appreciate it.
All right.
Now, item number 2, I think we've all received correspondence from Mr. Grieco. I don't know, we should discuss that tonight. I think it has to be reviewed by everybody individually and come back to it at our next meeting.
Yeah, and I didn't hear back from their attorney today too, so I do think it would probably be more productive to talk about that maybe at the next meeting.
Okay,
I'll table
Yeah,
that for today.
Yeah, I agree.
yep.
Thank you. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, Attorney Greco, do you have anything to report?
No, I mean, as Eileen mentioned, I sent that email about the Spring Street thing, but I think we'll be in a better position to discuss that once we hear back from them and the board has a little bit more time to digest those competing appraisals, I guess, and what they want to do, or what you guys want to do. And otherwise, no, nothing else to report right now.
Okay, Administrator Kindren,
No, I don't have anything.
Crew Chief Villanin,
No, not at this time.
Community Development Director DePriest,
I also have nothing to report. So, wow. I think we completed work session in an hour and 6 minutes.
Correct
Yeah.
timing.
So we will start our board meeting, unless there's other points here that anybody wants to discuss, we'll just kind of zoom off and everybody's got to be back by 7:30 for the board meeting.
I have a real quick question, that with the budget meeting, because we're going to Zoom, will we do that as well via Zoom, or are we going to meet in person?
No, we'll do the budget meeting via Zoom as well. So Judy should have hard copies of the budget in our mailboxes prior to that meeting. So everyone's going to need to stop in. And basically what we do for the budget is we kind of start at the beginning and we go through it page by page. And everyone should have received their budget sheets for their respective committees. And I believe those are due by the 25th, which is tomorrow. And yeah.
I'm missing one. Judy, can you email me one for arts and culture / diversity? I didn't have one for them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Judy, I looked through mine the other day and I don't have anything for the environmental committee.
I thought it's under tree board. Did you get one for tree board?
No.
Okay. And same with arts and culture is under meeting house. So I
Because
can get those out.
Didn't
Yeah,
get one.
I need to,
Okay.
because I'm sure we're gonna have the repair cafe again and I need money funding for that.
Okay, I'll get those out.
So you lumped together the tree board and environmental?
It's always been under that department
Oh, I had no idea. Well, no, I did not
Since-
receive tree board either.
before I got here, way before I got here. I think we have a list chart of accounts that comes from the state controller's office. And that is one of the accounts that's in that department.
So, but do you separate it though, or not?
It's
Even though
got
under the-
its own line.
Oh, good. So if you could just email me that and I can look at it and I'll send you answer right away.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
yep.
Judy, what about the zoning and planning board? I don't think they have a budget, right?
They have a very small budget that doesn't usually change. I believe it covers like training.
Yeah.
And I think planning board has possibly postage and advertising, maybe?
Gotcha.
Advertising. I think it has advertising for public notices. Legal notices.
Yeah, nice.
But that's about, they don't have much. Did you get those sheets by any chance?
Deb grabbed them for the parks meeting, so Deb, we'll circle it up.
Yeah, I filled out the parks meeting. Did I get that back to you yet, Judy? Or maybe I didn't.
No.
Okay, I'll get it to you tomorrow. I have it filled out. I just haven't gotten it over, so.
Okay.
Parks budget sheet. Okay, anything else before we take a little break before the board meeting?
Actually, I had something real quick since we're on the subject of the budget meeting. So what we'll do is we'll run it by Zoom. Everybody just like this in their separate places. And it'll be exactly like the special meeting held last week. Because during the regular budget meeting, when it's in person, the public can attend, but they have no option to speak or address the board or anything like that. So there won't be a chat function. All mics will be off, etc. So we'll just we'll use it the same way we did last week. And the meeting will be recorded. People can log on and watch. So basically it's just broadcasted and recorded for later viewing. So
I wear my
Okay.
pajamas.
if you'd like. Maybe pajama bottoms and then a button-up shirt at the top. That's what I would do.
I will probably be in my office for it. It's easier for me to be here, then I have access to everything.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And the
So-
budget books, I'm hoping to have the budget books out no later than February 2nd. Try and get them out before that, but Michelle and I have a lot to get done before they are assembled by Catherine.
Okay,
So, but we'll try and get them out sooner.
okay.
The other thing, I need someone, I'm hoping someone can time the 3 minutes tonight per individual for public participation. Keaton's gonna be busy monitoring, letting people on, so I'm hoping, is there somebody out there who can time the 3 minutes and ring a bell or something, or flag Keaton? How are we gonna do that?
I can time them, but I don't know. Keaton, do you know where the bell is? I can ring
It's
the
on
bell.
Karen.
Yeah, it's actually just right out in the hallway, right on the shelf of the planning department window, just on that
Okay.
little shelf. There's one right outside the clerk's office window too. So you can grab
Okay.
either and then bam. You're on.
Yeah, I'll do that for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great,
Okay.
thank you, Michelle.
Cool.
Great.
Okay, so then that way you'll probably, have a lot going on, just, getting everybody in and out and raising hands and all that stuff. So that helps. All right, anything else before we take a
you.
break? No? Okay, so let's try to get back in here by 7:25 and get set to start at 7:30.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Go to time.
Okay. Michelle, were you able to get that bell?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Keaton, are we back in the, we can't mute in and out mode like we were the last meeting?
Can you hear me, Christine? Because I did mute, but I think I'm back in, but maybe not.
Yeah,
You are.
I did mute everybody at first, and then I clicked on asking you to unmute so that
Right.
the board and village officials are the only ones that have the power to talk right now. With so many people on, as of right now, we still have a couple minutes before start time, and there's 45 on.
Okay.
46 now. So it's just for ease of access for the board to conduct its business. We just ask that people will raise their hand. Now at 47. So so we'll just have people raise their hand, or if they don't know what that means, we'll just explain it to them when the time is right.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure, because I know last time we did this, we can no longer mute without you inviting us back in, correct? And unmuting us? Okay.
Yes.
Just so nobody makes, I did that last time. in error.
Yeah, you can't unmute yourself, correct, yes. If I mute you, you can't unmute yourself, correct. Yeah, but you can mute yourself and it should be fine. So, and then you can unmute. But if I mute you, like I overrule it, essentially.
Okay, let me just test that real.
Sure, yeah, go right ahead.
So you have to unmute us.
Okay, no problem at all.
Yeah. So just so
But
we
with
know.
only, but with only, 8 people able to talk, that should lessen the burden on Zoom, so.
Right, yeah, no, I understand with feedback and everything, but just so we know, because.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Matt's got his hand up. He's muted.
Perfect. There you go. You're all set now.
Welcome
Stop
back.
showing off.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it just to make sure, because if I'm clearing my throat or whatnot, I don't want to, distract everyone. So
Sure.
Yeah,
You can't come back in. You can't come back in.
once I mute myself, I couldn't get back in.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I guess the setting doesn't work. It's not intermediary. You can't just pick and choose who has access to unmute and mute themselves. So
So Matt, when the kids start screaming in the background, we'll just consider it like ambient noise or something.
Bedtime is 8:30, so get ready for that one. That's gonna
Yeah, well, I'm used to it, so it's okay. All right. Keaton, is everyone with the village board on, and Judy and Michelle, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So it is 7:30. So I want
Judy,
to.
Michelle, myself.
Okay, let's get started because it's 7:30.
Yeah, so we should be all set.
Okay, so we'll start off with the welcome everyone to the village board meeting for Monday, January 24th, 2022. And we'll begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Trustee Hunt.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States
of America,
and to
and
the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Administrator Kindren, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Mayor Rogers,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sherman,
Here.
Trustee Carson,
Here.
Trustee Hunt,
Here,
Trustee Torrey,
Here.
Attorney Greco,
Ben has his hand raised, Keaton,
Oh, he must have muted himself. There we go.
maybe.
If someone mutes themselves, maybe just raise their hand and you can let them back in. Does that work? Protocol.
Attorney Greco also has his hand raised.
Yep, and I'm unmuted now, so, but yeah, I couldn't unmute myself.
Yep,
Gotcha.
present.
Deputy Treasurer Bettino,
Here.
DPW Crew Chief Villanin,
Here.
Director of Community Development DePriest.
Here.
Okay, thank you. We have no proclamations this evening. I'll make a motion then to approve the minutes. Approve the minutes for the regular meeting that was held on January 10th, 2022. And we did have one amendment on those.
Yeah, Judy, were both of those fixed? The
Yes,
date?
everything is fixed. Yes, it was the one line item.
Okay. So, and I'll also.
You're muted. Mayor
Sorry,
Rogers,
Deb,
you're
yeah,
muted.
there we go.
Still muted.
One second, I'm sorry.
Looks like Judy is muted too.
Okay, there we go. And Judy.
Okay, I did not do that for the record. So I was also approving the minutes from the special meeting that we held on January 20th, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have no public hearings this evening, so we're going to roll right into suspension of rules for public participation. And for those who are with us this evening, if you would like to address the board, we ask that you state your name and address. We will be timing everyone who speaks to a 3-minute time limit, and you will hear a bell ring at that 3 minutes showing that your time is up. And if you would like to speak, I ask you to use the raise your hand function.
Done.
And then we'll bring you, Keaton, Mr. DePriest will allow you in, and in that order of the hand raising. So I'll make a motion then to move into suspension of rules for public participation. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right,
Trustee
thank
Hunt,
you.
are you unmuted?
I am. I was muted
Okay.
for that first vote, but I was in favor of approving the minutes. Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, everybody who made it into tonight's meeting. We have, looks like about a dozen hand raisers, and we're going to start off with Dan Ryder. Timing everybody for 3 minutes is Michelle. And Dan, you have the floor.
He's
Just
muted.
yep, there you go. Just got to click that on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
Mayor, I sent you an email on Wednesday, January the 19th, raising the issue of snowbanks and unsafe intersections, pedestrian intersections throughout the village. And also bringing up the Main Street parking areas, which are essentially blocked on the passenger side of a car because of 4-foot-high snowbanks. We like to talk about encouraging business in the village, and these snowbanks are a discouragement, and they're a safety hazard for kids going to school, on the safe routes to school, and on any proposed customers along Main Street. There are many valued businesses. Yeah, I would hope the board would take this issue up before. I have raised it in other orders before. I think the last time was probably a couple of years ago. The snow needs to be removed. Now, to tie that in to another issue, Tori's #1 resolution tonight, she wants to pay the county and capitulate and make masks and whatever other county mandates required in all the businesses along Main Street. Again, we're not doing anything to encourage business, which is that's it?
No, that was a phone ringing. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh, well, then we're not doing anything to encourage business. We're discouraging it. I think we need to reevaluate things and come up with a unified approach to encourage businesses by removing snow and also making it safe for kids going to school, and to allow residents to come into businesses unimpeded by various county rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder.
Thank you, Dan. So next up in the list, we have Susan. Asking you to unmute now. Susan, you are up.
Thank you. Can you hear me clearly?
We can.
Great. This is Susan Fenster, 46 Columbia Drive in Williamsville. And I have a written statement I would like to read. It's been a tough couple of weeks in our beloved village. I'm not sure what issue is most concerning to me. the mayor's unbridled willingness to tilt at windmills, her eagerness to dip into the contingency budget to put forth her own political agenda, or the fact that she stacked the village board with appointees who are blindly following in lockstep. Just last spring, the mayor was eager to sell the historic meeting house for a mere 30 pieces of silver. And now she's willing to throw financial caution to the wind to support yet another stance that she has no proof her constituency supports. None. No informal polls, no referenda, no survey monkey, nothing. Mrs. Mayor, I sincerely acknowledge your First Amendment right to be interviewed on conservative talk radio and to spew your beliefs at meetings before like-minded political action committees. What you shouldn't be doing is speaking your truth on behalf of village voters and dipping into the village budget to support a cause primarily put forth by people who are not your constituents. If you want to pursue a personal agenda, Mrs. Mayor, return to private life. I can almost guarantee that when you resign, all of your so-called supporters will be scraping off their Heart Deb Rogers bumper stickers and throwing away their lawn signs. Let this one fact be true. We are all tired of the COVID epidemic. No one wants to live in fear and uncertainty for months at a time, wondering if and when this disease will mow us down. But what makes this village so vital, so worth paying an extra tax bill each year, is having leaders that are attuned to the citizenry who live in its roughly 1 square mile. This is a community of tight-knit, hardworking, kind souls who are just trying to get on with living their life. None of us wants to be protesting in 15-degree weather. Now more than ever, we need each other. We need to unite ourselves. We need to support our local business people. We need not to be afraid. I don't support your anti-mask views, but more importantly, in terms of your leadership, I'm primarily concerned about your ability to understand what we need from you. Support, comfort, unity. The history books will chronicle your folly, so enjoy your time with the cool gang. But keep in mind that the sovereignty of this village has been in question more than a few times in our history. Should your actions play into the hands of those who want to see the village dissolved, that's something I and many residents will find unforgivable. Just read the comments offered in the newspaper articles published in the last few weeks, and you'll hear the hoof prints of people wanting dissolution. Mrs. Mayor, it's still within your grasp to take your foot off the accelerator and serve the village in the capacity you've been elected to serve. I urge you to do that. I beg you to do that. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Fenster. I just want to add, there's some breaking news out there for those who haven't seen it. A New York State Supreme Court judge has just ruled that the governor's mask mandate is illegal. So if you want more information on that, you can probably Google search it and find it. Go ahead, Keaton. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, so next up in the list, we have Shira Gabriel, asking you to unmute right now.
Great. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. So everyone is entitled to their opinion on masks.
Can I get your address, please?
Oh, sure. I'm at 136 South Cayuga in the village.
Thank you.
Yep, village resident. So everyone is entitled to their opinion on masks. And Deb, I appreciate that you have a very different opinion than I do on masks. But as public officials, you represent us. So that's a little bit different than your own opinions. And I tried to make this point in the last meeting, and what I mentioned was that polling has found that 75% of New York State residents support mask mandates. So I really wanted you all to understand that this is something that people support. But obviously that didn't work because you didn't listen and you didn't alter your views on it. So I thought maybe, we all live in our bubbles and you guys have your bubbles too, and your talk radio that you go on and the groups that you speak in front of that are all very anti-mask. So I thought maybe you mistakenly think that the village supports these views and that people in the village are against mask mandates. So I did some research and I found that, yeah, you might say, well, New York State is blue. So of course, 75% of New York State people support mask mandates, but that's not the case for the village. Well, actually, in New York State, Biden won over Trump by 23%. In the village of Williamsville, where we live and you're the mayor, Biden won by 28%. So the village is actually bluer, more Democratic than the rest of New York State on average. And Democrats, 9 out of 10 Democrats believe in mask mandates. And for that matter, 4 out of 10 Republicans do too. So there are people on both sides who believe it. But what this points to once again is that the vast majority of people in the village are against your anti-mask behavior. So that's fine. You can have it. Go to Albany, get yourself, to an appointment with Cuomo, go march and hold signs in front of Poulin Hartz's office as a private individual. But as our mayor, you need to just pay this fine and move on. To say that you're representing the village in a lawsuit that not only takes our money, but also our good name as a reasonable place is not right. The right thing to do right now is to cut your losses. You broke the mandate, you got fined, pay the fine, and let us move on. Let us go back to being a community of neighbors who care about and support one another and are united in this difficult time, rather than the divisions that have been sown by leadership that ignores the fact that the vast majority of the population of the village of Williamsville does not support this. Follow the Tory amendment today, vote it in, and pay the fine, and let's move on. Thank you for my time.
Thank you, Ms. Gabriel.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Joan Siemens, and I'm asking you to unmute now. Hold on, Joan. Maybe you muted yourself there. Okay, I'm asking you to unmute now.
How's
We
that?
good?
We're good?
Perfect. You're
Okay,
on. Yep.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I
No problem.
appreciate that. Joan Elizabeth Siemens, 5750 Main Street here in the village of Williamsville. I do a statement. As a longtime resident and business owner here in the village, I would like to ask Deb Rogers to consider stepping down as mayor. In 30 years, I've never seen the village receive such bad press. While Rogers is crusading a cause personal to her beliefs, the rest of the village residents and businesses are being branded through association by living here in the village. Mayor Rogers was elected in an uncontested race with, I think, maybe 188 votes. She went on to appoint Dave Sherman and Matt Carson to the board, so she would be guaranteed a majority in pushing through her agenda, from putting through nonsensical propositions to wasting taxpayer dollars fighting Erie County. Those 2 trustees were not elected by the residents, yet the mayor and her trustees are making policy that impacts all of us in the village. Sadly, not one of them did any outreach at all to gather the opinions of those they're obligated to represent. Imagine if she spent even half the time talking to us instead of concocting propositions and going on radio shows to continue her imagined martyrdom. So every time the media says the village of Williamsville in regards to the misguided decisions being made, I cringe. I really cringe. No, because you're not helping the business owners. Deb, you're deeply hurting us. The majority of Western New Yorkers, and that includes the village, support the safety measures in place regarding COVID. Yes, they may change, and they probably will, but now we support the decisions being made by those making them through medical decisions and so on. Unfortunately, here the buzz is the village residents and the businesses are somehow aligned with you. It's bad enough people have to climb over snow piles, as was mentioned earlier, to shop here. We don't want people staying away because they have honest concerns about getting COVID from those who won't wear a mask. On January 10th, at the village board meeting, a man stepped up to the microphone and he presented this question: why should I stay in this village? When Deb Rogers, our mayor, responded with, and I'm quoting, "I can't answer your question because I can't give you a good reason to stay," I was beyond stunned. For her to be our mayor and not see the gifts we have here, the sense of community, helping one another, those who believe our elderly should be cherished, and that our children they're raising here are our future. To not acknowledge our stellar school system, our beautiful parks, my goodness, we have a waterfall, and of course, our small businesses who add to the vibrance of our village. To be the mayor of this village and say you can't give a good reason to live here, combined with the other many unsettling maneuvers, is what leads me to the statement. Deb Rogers, I hope you will consider stepping down. We need to rebuild our reputation, and most important of all, focus on village priorities. I believe the only way we can do that is with new leadership who will be sitting in the mayor's chair for the right reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Siemens. I do need to correct that untruth that was just stated by Ms. Siemens. The gentleman, I did indeed, she's absolutely right. I did, she quoted me correctly. So that part was correct, but the gentleman that spoke asked why he should stay here because of the New York State strangulation that is being imposed upon him and other area business owners with the mandates and with the threat of an impending vaccine mandate. So while Ms. Siemens did get my quote correct, she left out very, intentionally perhaps, maybe not, but she did leave out the fact of the conversation itself that entailed beforehand. So I just want to make sure that that was corrected.
Okay, thank you very much, Joan. Next up, we have Kathleen Pitts. I've asked you to unmute, and you may go whenever you're ready. You have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we're good. Thank you.
It's Kathleen Pitts, and it's 25 Milton Street. And I just put together something to read for the public participation portion of this meeting. At the special meeting held on January 20th, the mayor stated she is voting yes on the resolution to retain outside counsel to fight the Erie County Department of Health's $300 fine on, quote, behalf of all village taxpayers and the business community, end quote. I have lived in the village of Williamsville for a long time. I know many village residents and business owners. I take issue with this statement because in my conversations, most do not agree with the decisions this mayor has been making on our behalf. I have friends who own businesses in the village. They are adamant the mayor has made daily life more difficult dealing with hostile customers when enforcing the mask mandate. If this mayor is so confident that she represents the opinions of village taxpayers, I would like to see proof of this. I would like to see the results of the poll that was conducted to corroborate this proclamation. Of course, there never was a poll conducted because the views of the village community do not matter to this mayor. She is using the position we entrusted her to further her far-right extremist agenda. I am astonished that we are here right now. I am astonished that this mayor has deceived so many and continues down this path that we do not want. I am astonished that her two appointees follow her blindly along this path so many residents oppose. This is not democracy. This is tyranny. Do the right thing, pay the fine, stop this insanity, and get back to village work. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kathleen. I will say that we had a record number of participants a week or two ago, but this really beats that record. We have 84 participants on right now. So I want to thank everybody for not coming out tonight, but coming to your computer and taking a look at our meeting tonight. Without further ado, we have Maria Testa, and I'm asking you to unmute now, and you have the floor, Maria.
Thank you. I have a short statement. I live at 60 Monroe Drive in the village. I agree strongly with many of the previous speakers, Susan and Shira and Joan and Kathleen, who have spoken so eloquently for so many of us who have felt voiceless. And very briefly, I urge the board to support the Torres resolution authorizing the mayor to pay the $300 fine to the county. This will potentially save the taxpayers thousands of dollars in unnecessary legal fees. Regardless of anyone's position on masks, the taxpayers of Williamsville should not be obligated for this additional and unnecessary money. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Testo.
Thank you, Maria. Next, we have Raymond Herman asking it on mute, and you have the floor, Raymond.
Good evening, everyone. Ray Herman, 114 Oak Grove. I just would like to comment briefly regarding this matter of the mask mandate. I think that the motivation here was fair in the resolution, because I think it's extremely unfair to ask a business to enforce a mask mandate when really it should be focused on the individual. If you're going to have a mask mandate, they should have people charging people directly. So now, for instance, you had a board meeting, an in-person board meeting where people were unmasked, and they possibly could be justified in being unmasked by the requirements of the rule, but the village was cited. So I think that there's a real question here whether the village should be paying this fine. I do think the village was singled out. We were the only one charged with this offense. No other municipality was charged. I think the county executive just did not like the fact that the mayor was taking a position on this. He sent out his health inspectors and did the charges. So I don't like the fact that we were singled out. Finally, I'd like to comment in a general sense about these mask mandates. They really, when you compare New York State with other states, and most states do not have a mask mandate, our infection rate has been higher than many of these states. So I think a very strong argument could be made that the mask mandate really is not an effective public health measure. And so I think it's unreasonable to ask businesses and government entities to enforce a mask mandate that really doesn't work. If you're serious about masks, you should wear an N95. Cloth masks are not effective. I've read studies, and I've certainly been aware of medical people who said that really a cloth mask is no better than not even wearing a mask. So we have a mask mandate that really is not effective. It's not protecting people unless you want to be serious and say that everyone has to wear an N95 mask. So there's a lot of avenues to question the validity. And of course, the mayor just pointed out, I was not aware of this, that a judge just declared this mandate invalid. So I don't think that it's off base for the village to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herman.
Thank you, Raymond. Next up, we have Theodore Poulin. Asked you to unmute. You should be all set.
Theodore Poulin. I live at 32 Highland. I'm a sophomore at South High School, a resident of the village of Williamsville, and a filmmaker. In March of 2021, I won grand prize in a national competition for my documentary about a lack of trust in the government. For it, on May 10th of last year, you gave me a citation, which was presented during a ceremony where you discussed all the valuable points the video brought up and how great it was to see someone so young participating in political discussion. My video addressed several topics involving the issue of trust, one of which being that for governments to maintain the trust of the public has to believe that they are keeping them safe, a value which Mayor Deb lists as one that she cares about on the village website. I, however, find it rather odd that in the middle of a pandemic, she is taking action to spread disease more effectively, which, and I'll say this is just my personal opinion, feels the antithesis of safe. My documentary also addresses the obvious fact that the easiest way to lose trust is to lie to people. In the village board meeting on January 10th, when the village board resolved to oppose state and county health guidelines, Mayor Rogers describes the COVID-19 disease as a long-term global endemic. However, no matter what organization you cite, World Health Organization, the CDC, New York State Department of Health, Erie County Department of Health, no one is arguing that this disease is not a pandemic. And who would with Erie County still reporting a higher COVID rate than during any other part of the pandemic. So to call this disease anything else is lying, not out of ignorance, but out of a hope for self-gain. Finally, in a nation that calls itself a democracy, one would expect that the representation in your government would be elected. And yet, 2 of the 5 people that got to vote on that January 10th resolution were never voted into office. Instead, they were appointed directly by the mayor, who took into no consideration who the people in her community of 5,000 constituents would want elected. Not to mention that she herself was elected in an election with incredibly low turnout in which she received only 117 votes. This is not democratic. This is not a representative board. I created my video about the flaws in our national government that left citizens feeling like they could not trust it. But I have come to the realization that despite your commendation of it, my video is about you. It is about your failure to fairly, safely, and honestly represent the village of Williamsville. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poulin.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much, Theodore. Next, we have Wendy Klein-Tarbell. And I've asked you to unmute. Should be ready to go.
Yeah. Did we lose her, or she's just not muted, or she is muted?
Where she went
It's
now.
muted. It looks like maybe her microphone's not working.
She's unmuted. Yeah.
Can we come back to her? Just because I want to keep this moving.
What are we doing? Yep. So next up, Dave Bauer, asking to unmute. Should be all set.
Dave Bauer, 102 Oak Grove Drive. Yes?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yep, you're a little low, but we can hear you.
I can
Okay.
barely hear him. Could you speak up, Mr. Bauer?
Yeah, let me just see if I can turn my settings up. Thank you for just a momentary pause. Is that any better?
A little bit.
Okay,
Not much.
not much. Well, here we go. So what I am needing to say, I need to say a few words for the children that are unable to attend. So I speak for you, to you, for the children in our community. Thank you for volunteering to act as elders in our village. All of you here tonight are valued and important. Ask yourselves, what do the children need since they are unable to speak to you this evening? Their message to all of us is quite simple and clear. Please care for us. Listen to each other with compassion. Seek to understand. And most urgently, please put aside small grievances and find ways to create our community so that we can care for all of us. We are one family. We are tired of the burdens and fears of COVID. We children too have felt the burdens. Some of us have even lost people that we really love. Please don't get lost on blaming anyone for this. Just do what is wise and best for all of us, especially us, your children. And we thank you for listening generously. And now on a personal note, I wish to say to Deb personally, I have great respect for your leadership, Deb. We've worked alongside each other in creating the Nature Play Park, along with the Public Works and Ben. We are seeking so often the judges' rulings to hold some efficacy, but what we've seen in the past is that judges' rulings are often appealed and overturned. So let's not lean on one moment of a judge's ruling for any proof that we're on a right or a wrong side of the issue. Please, let's ensure, Deb, our community is cohesive, caring, and I say this to all of the board members, let's not join so many that have gotten lost by placing energy on blaming anyone. Let's do what's best for ourselves and best for our community. Thank you. I have spoken.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer. And I really want to thank you for those words of wisdom. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, next up we have Jean. Should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple things. Number one, in regards to the
Excuse
poll.
me, Jean, name and
Yes.
address, please.
Oh, I'm
Name
sorry.
and address.
Yes, Gene Civic, 34 Wick Street. And I'm going to put out a disclaimer, first of all, that I am just outside the village, but that doesn't mean what happens in the village isn't important to me and the people that live on our street, because we do use the services of the village, restaurants, stores, and so on. So what I would like to say is that regarding the poll, there was a poll that was shown to me back in December, taken by the Amherst, I don't know if it was the B or the Amherst group papers, that said 85% of those polled do not support mask mandates. The other thing is that this isn't about the fine, it's about the principle of the matter. When does this stop with the overreach of our government? And as far as the cost to the village taxpayers, there has been a GoFundMe page that has been started with contributions outside of the village of Williamsville coming in throughout Erie County and beyond. So the cost to the village of taxpayers would probably be nothing. It's also been proven that surgical and cloth masks do not work because the virus has a size of 0.0 to 0.5 microns, much too small to be filtered out by a cloth or surgical mask. And also, just within the past couple hours, a New York State Supreme Court judge has ruled that section 2.60 of the state sanitation code regarding mask mandates has been declared null, void, and unenforceable. Also, we the people, when we elect our representatives, we want them to stand on principle. And principle is not changing depending on which way the wind is blowing. Sometimes you might be wrong, but you still should stand up for your principle. Too many elected officials throughout the country, both local, state, and national, have wavered depending on which way the wind is blowing. And that's all we ask of our elected individuals, is that they do not waver from what their principles are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Civic.
I wish to address something that Mr. Civic said, specifically the Amherst poll. It never specifies how many people actually call in and answer the poll. It could be 10. So 85% is nothing if it's just 10 people. So you can't use that as an example of polling because it is false. It's not accurate. We don't know how many people called in or wrote in or whatever it is you have to do to. So I know that for a fact.
Well, there
And
might
another thing-
have been 1,000 that called in. We don't know.
Well, we don't know. And another fact I'd like to bring up in terms of this GoFundMe that you spoke of. Yes, the village will still always have to pay the fines because the GoFundMe is set up to pay the attorney that the mayor wishes to hire. The fines will always have to be paid by the village. So
That
this
is
one
not true. That is not
correct.
true. That is
That
not
is
true.
correct.
No, that
How
is
would you
not,
know?
because there was a contribution prior to
We may not
deciding.
accept contributions to the village. You are wrong.
You don't have to. We could just go to the Rath building and give them $300
No, you may
to
not.
pay the fine. Yes, we can.
No,
I've
you may
discussed
not.
this with an attorney.
Michelle, where are we on time?
Let's
Michelle,
go
where-
one at a time, please. One at a time.
Where are we on time, Michelle?
Okay, we've got 5 seconds left.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Jean.
All right, thank you.
So Trustee Torrey, I don't think it's fair that you attack someone who doesn't essentially have your viewpoint.
Well, you just did the
when-
same thing.
I'm sorry, who did I attack?
You attacked two individuals. You corrected their statements twice.
I had to correct because the one was a blatant mistruth. Yes, I did.
Well,
have to
I'm correcting the statement here as well. Same deal.
Well, but you're really not, because you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm not questioning Miss Gabriel's poll that she is, I just took it for face value and trusted what she was saying. And at the same
Oh, I'm
point.
not questioning the poll. I'm just verifying that when the AmRSP takes a poll, it never lists how many people are actually polled. It just gives the percentage. So we don't know what the numbers were. So, you know,
but I would defer to the person who's speaking, and I think it's disrespectful of you to just jump on and say that maybe it was 10
well,
people.
I disagree with you.
Mr. Civic's right, it could have been 10,000 people. So because we have no way of knowing that, I'm just asking you to treat everyone this evening who's speaking with respect. That's all.
Yeah, same to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I certainly am doing my very best with it, and I hope you do as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Mr. DePriest.
Great. Thank you, everybody. So just two quick announcements. One, I know several people so far have read statements that they've prepared specifically for suspension of rules. If you could, as a courtesy to us, to have them into the record, if you could just submit those to Village Hall or just email them. I put a note in the chat dialogue for everybody. If you could just do that, that would be greatly appreciated. We'd love to have your remarks, fully in record. And the other announcement is we're heading into the final three people who have their hands raised. I didn't want to wait until the end to let everyone know. Anyone who wishes to speak does have 3 minutes. Please use the raise your hand function if you are interested in that. As we head into the final three people of 92 people who are on this meeting. So thank you. And the next person is Peyton Weinstein. And you should have capability to unmute right now.
Thank you. Peyton and Nicole Weinstein. So we've now been at the past couple meetings, and we just want to say that Trustee Torrey, I kind of feel like when you were giving Mayor Deb a hard time just a minute ago, I would love for you to produce evidence regarding mask wearing, and as far as the CDC states, it doesn't really protect you anymore. So as a patron, and my daughter is a middle school child in school, I think that we need to really reevaluate the science, follow the science. And if we're doing so, then perhaps that we would be enlightened with the facts that the cloth masks really don't do much. And with that being said, we are allowed to have our own opinion, and that's fine. So you can do you, we can do us, and we can all have our own opinions to what we feel is safest for our own family. Because at the end of the day, that's what America's about. Isn't that correct? Peyton, would you like to talk? Oh. Really? You sure? All right. And that's all we have to say.
Could you state your address, please?
505 North Forest.
Thank you, Mrs. Weinstein.
Peyton's absolutely sure that she doesn't want to offer any thoughts to the board.
Are you
Be
sure?
a part of history.
She's been a part of history, December 13th. No, she's feeling nervous. We actually were at the town hall this evening. We didn't realize it was a Zoom meeting. So we've been running around, we're tired. And
Well,
she's just supportive.
Thank you for speaking this evening.
Okay, thank you so much. And next up, we have Doug Campese. I'm sorry if you're not Italian, tried to get it right. Please feel free to unmute, Doug.
We go.
Hi
You
there.
were close enough. That was good.
I'm
Thank
actually,
you.
I'm Liz Campese, 454 Getzville Road in Amherst. And I just jumped on here. I was invited and I wanted to say, although I'm not a village resident, I do patronize the village businesses out there. My son once had a business in the village on Main Street. I'm going to spend my money where I have a choice. Where they're not going to require masks. I'm very pro freedom. I believe everyone in this country should have a choice, particularly because the masks don't work. As a few others have said, I came behind too that, I don't know if you planned it that way, but we just happened to fall in that order. I didn't know it. I will give my business to those that allow me a choice. It's not right. I think the government I think it's getting pushed down our throats. It's gotten out of control. And we need to have a choice. And I know this is really about the issue with the fine. And I don't believe it's about the fine. For me, it's about the principle. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's still a little time left if Doug did want to say something. Let me just unmute there. Yeah. Okay, there you go. You should have capability to unmute.
All right. I wasn't prepared for anything, but I will throw in this. You know, a lot of people throw around the phrase follow the science, and I really wish we would. Senator Ron Johnson today had some of the top epidemiologists and scientists on air today for 5 hours doing a hearing, and one of the topics was masks. Masks do not work. If you want to protect yourself, get a P100 respirator, change the filters every 2 hours. Those are the ones with the big filters on each side. They filter in everything, including viruses, but on the way out, the diaphragm opens up and the air is exhaled without a filter. So if you do have COVID, you're contaminating. So not even those work. Basically, it's like trying to keep mosquitoes out with a chain link fence. That's what we're dealing with. So let's use the science. Let's get rid of the masks and let's get back to normal. Thank you.
I do want to say, if someone wants to wear a mask, I believe it's their choice, but I'm totally against the mandates.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Campese.
Yes, thank you both. Okay, so next up we have Johanna Kutlahan.
Hi, yes. Are you able to hear me with these earphones? I don't always know.
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. So I'm just jumping on here. I did not have anything planned to speak. I was listening and I heard a lot of things that I was glad to hear. What I am dismayed to hear is a lot of rhetoric about following the science, and what I find a severe misrepresentation of the science. The talking point that masks don't work is an old refrain that I've heard. And even the news now that an N95 is significantly better than a cloth mask, I hear being interpreted as cloth masks are worse than nothing. But the reason why I'm speaking up is not about that issue, because it seems to me that people will cling to their sources and go back to their talking points. I am just wanting to add one more voice on the Amherst Bee poll, because there's been some talk about how we don't know how many people answered that poll. And this is sort of overlapping with my role as a public educator. But I just want to point out the nuance that I looked up how Amherst Bee poll works, and anybody logs in, and it's an online poll. It is the textbook example of how to do an unscientific poll. It's the same as those polls that show up on a television channel saying, call in and give us your opinion. It has a very selected respondent rate depending on who was encouraged to or heard about the poll. It's certainly the textbook example of what is not representative numerically, not even if a lot of people are polled. If a lot of people are polled because 100 people on a chain message said, let's all answer this poll, then this is a poll that represents the view of those 100 people that heard about the poll and were excited to respond to it. This is a village of 5,300 people, I read. this is a small enough, reasonable village where you could do a substantive, reasonably rigorous, or at least robust poll to have some basis for the claim that that there's a general anti-mask sentiment and that our businesses, or you could poll business owners and see their, as opposed to like individual testimonials or anecdote, and see how they view a mask mandate. But I would say that it's about both the businesses and the residents. And I just want to add more nuance to the issue of what makes a scientific poll and what makes a poll representative. And it's more than the numbers. And it really pains me to hear the misflights of logic or the, anyway, I've been dealing with this a lot, obviously, during the pandemic. I'm sorry to take too long. There's a small factor that I could jump in and try to help with. I hope I haven't been so unhelpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for speaking.
Actually, Johanna, before you leave, I hope you didn't mute yet, but could you possibly provide your address to us? I'm asking you to unmute now for it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm at 57 Brookside.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next up, we have Junior. Junior is on, being asked to unmute now.
All right,
Should
I'm
be ready to
muted.
go.
Yes, sir. If you can hear me, name is Tom Bowerly, 11 Columbia Drive, Williamsville, New York, for over 20 years or so. My position, I think, is pretty clear in support of Mayor Rogers. I think she's done an outstanding job standing up for individual rights and individual freedoms. In terms of the scientific efficacy of the Amherst Bee poll, let's talk about a poll, if we may, for just a moment, which was done according to scientific method. It was a poll that was done by the Erie County Democrat Committee, and it showed that Mark Poulin cars in a hypothetical race that day would lose to Mickey Kearns by 5 points, with a plus or minus of 3 points. And one of the things that the county executive had declaimed previously was those of us who oppose mask mandates are a small but vocal minority. One might extrapolate reasonably that since that poll was done, Mr. Polencars has not made that argument that we're a small but vocal minority, that perhaps the results countywide did not exactly go in his favor. Nobody is telling anybody that they shouldn't be able to, sorry, my assistant here is, nobody's telling anybody that they can't wear a mask if they don't want to do it. But what Mayor Rogers is doing, I think, is at the cusp of freedom. I think our founding fathers would be very proud of what the mayor is doing. And in terms of the democratic process, as was brought up by a few people, including the wonderful young filmmaker who I wish a delightful career to, he sounds like a really, really bright young man. In terms of democracy, let us not forget that this board did follow the democratic principle, and there were votes on this board. However, the county executive's mandate were not anything like democracy. They were a lot more, they were mandates. They were not voted upon by anybody. It was Mark Polencars taking a page from New York State Public Officers Law and ascribing to himself the fiat powers that he did, when in fact, this board and others like it are representative of the three separate and co-equal branches of government envisioned by our founding fathers. So to everybody who has spoken, it's been great hearing what you have to say. To Mayor Rogers and trustees Sherman and Carson, I want to thank you very much for standing up and doing the right thing. And $300 is a pretty small price to pay, considering all of the people who've made tremendous sacrifices for our collective freedom over the centuries. So thank you for listening. And Mayor Rogers, if you could plow Columbia Drive now, that'd be great. Thank you.
Wait, I'd like to say one thing. Christina, 11 Columbia Drive. Just on trustee or Tori's comment about the Amherst Bee poll, when Mayor Rogers brought all her emails of all those that were for this or that were against the mask mandate, Miss Tori didn't have any of hers. So maybe if she can produce those, then we can get some more information and some concrete actual advice.
Thank you both for speaking.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have, well, I don't want to butcher this, so I'm going to say Mr. Kutlahan. And you've been asked to unmute.
Thanks. Yeah, that's the last name. Yeah, that's correct. And you wouldn't know how to pronounce it from the spelling. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, this is Chapter John. I'm 57 Brookside Drive. So I actually sent an email earlier today to Mayor Rogers and also the trustees, even though I couldn't find the email of Trustee Carson. So I hope that was forwarded to him. So I'm just going to read that email, or at least a portion of it. The resolution recently proposed by the mayor and approved only by favorable votes from 2 trustees appointed by her is nothing more than divisive political rhetoric and an empty gesture to a minority of residents of the village who are under the wrong impression that being required to wear face masks in public spaces during a global pandemic caused by an airborne virus is somehow an infringement upon their constitutional rights. So as a result of the reckless and rule-defying behavior of the mayor that emboldened a number of village residents, the village was issued a penalty for its violation of Erie County's indoor mask requirement. By the way, the Erie County is still under emergency state. So unlike the New York State, instead of accepting responsibility for her actions, the mayor is now doubling down on her politically charged crusade by challenging this penalty. In doing so, she will not only possibly waste taxpayer dollars based on what I heard today, but also drag the good name of the village into her political fight, which is more important to me. As far as I know, the mayor is not a public health expert, and none of the people who spoke today, as far as I understand, are public health experts. So we have no say to the extent of the efficacy of these, these measures that we are taking. So her stance does not represent the opinions of the majority of village residents. She should pay the penalty from her personal funds and move on to pressing municipal matters that she has control over. So I would like to thank and then end here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And next up, we have Dennis Hoban. You should be able to unmute. Dennis?
Good evening. How you doing?
Good, good. We can hear you.
Great. First of all, I want to tell the board and the rest of the people on Zoom that I think that the mayor is doing a great job, and so are the 2 trustees that are supporting her in this effort. I'm not thrilled with Eileen Torrey or the other woman, Trustee Hunt. I actually don't think they're really representing the people. I happen to know that I guess one of the local politicians' wives helped them get elected onto the board.
Excuse me?
Excuse me. Yeah, I'm speaking now. It's my time. And I think you should actually resign. I imagine that was probably Eileen that said that.
Absolutely, because you are spreading falsities in public.
I'm talking now, Eileen. This is my time to talk. Unless you want to. You said at a meeting that you had 100 emails, and a friend of mine foiled it, and you had 30 emails, and 20 of those emails supported Mayor Deb. So you actually had 10 emails that said enforce the mask mandate, and you said in front of a room full of about 60 people that you had 100 emails, and that was an outright lie. So I'll be waiting for your resignation at the next meeting. Okay, Eileen? So that's enough out of you. All right? That's enough out of you. And laugh all you want, man. Laugh all you want. But I'll be waiting for your resignation. Or you can just get fired. Because you can't lie about that. You can't lie about things like that. Not to the people. Okay? Yeah.
I did not lie. Go ahead. Why don't you finish your statement, Mr. Hoban, and get on with it, please?
Well, thank you. Well, a judge just ruled that it was unconstitutional, the mask mandate. So that should probably put an end to it unless they want to appeal it. So you people are just, wasting your time. and you're wasting everybody else's time. But as Brother John Wayne said, life is hard, but harder if you're stupid. So saddle up, Eileen.
Stop it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hoban.
Excuse me, Mayor Rogers.
Yes.
The people speaking really are not supposed to address individual members of the board, and that was really an attack on Eileen, Trustee Eileen Torrey. So I would appreciate it if people would follow that guideline.
So my comment to that will be that the 3 minutes of public participation is just that. I don't want to step on anyone's freedom of speech. There's nobody that is being threatened in those commentaries. They are simply saying names. Plenty of people have stated me directly, Mayor Rogers this evening, and I would never want to interfere with giving people that right to speak openly, because that is why we're here this evening, to speak openly about what is on our minds.
And yes, we are, and it's not and they are more than welcome to. It's not a matter of suppressing anybody's right to free speech. It's a matter of following the NICOM guidelines. And
I'll have to let Chip address that. Chip, are you still with us tonight? Keaton, you might need to mute
Yeah, let
him.
me make sure he didn't mute himself. Okay, you should be all set, Chip.
Chip, Trustee Hunt had a question.
I heard the comment. I think look, you guys need to run the meeting the way you want to run the meeting. The village board establishes meeting procedures that are adopted every year. It is true that according to the village's adopted meeting procedures, under guidelines for public comment, all remarks must be made to the board as a body and not to individual board members. Also, speakers must observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. Interested parties or the representatives may also address the board by written communications. Look, these are the guidelines that the village adopts. They're only as good as people are willing to abide by them and to the ability of somebody to enforce them. It's not my role. I'm not the parliamentarian here, but that's what the guidelines. That's what the village's procedures as adopted for governing how you want to run public participation. I should also add, just again, because I know there's a lot of people on, this is just people know, New York state law does not require municipalities to allow public participation except at public hearings. So this is something that the village does voluntarily, and it is free to adopt reasonable policies governing that. But again, it's, the ability to adhere to those really depends on everybody trying to play nice.
Right. Well, and I to Trustee Hunt's comment, I mean, there were several speakers before that specifically, spoke as though, I believe one participant even said that, Mayor Rogers chose the attorney, or Mayor Rogers hired the attorney. I would like to correct that. Obviously, this isn't a board of one. This is a board of five. So no, Mayor Rogers did not hire the attorney, nor did Mayor Rogers, whatever. It was a board decision. So as we sat here and everybody pointed out my name specifically, I find it interesting that you at no point needed to perhaps interject at that. So I just assumed that since you or the other the other board members didn't interject on my behalf as being specifically spoken out against, I just assumed that your silence was that you were okay with that. So my apologies if somehow now that table has been turned and it's not okay to say either Trustee Torrey or whomever. And going forward, I would just ask the public to hear what I had just said and, ask the public to abide accordingly if that is now an issue.
Mentioning something in commentary is one thing. Bantering on somebody is another thing. There is a line that can be crossed. And so far, nobody has crossed it, except for now. That was my point.
Okay. I'm going to segue just by saying that, remember, this meeting is being recorded, so it lives on in history. So that's all my warning as the your communications guy. Just let's all just, cool heads always prevail. And all of you have said some very good points from the public. So that's all I have to say. So that being said, we will move on to Mick on Mick's phone. You should be able to unmute.
Hello? Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Hi.
Thank you.
My first time on the Zoom meeting, and I've attended a board meeting. It was probably about a month ago.
Let's start it. Just to interrupt real quick. Could you state your name and address?
Oh, yeah. So my name is Michaela Lagambina, 5823 Main Street, Williamsville. I'm a business owner in the village of Williamsville. Before I get started, I've got about 6 minutes of content I'd like to talk about. I know I'm allotted 3, and a friend of mine has offered to give me her 3. So can I put that together and just talk uninterrupted for 6 minutes?
No.
Mayor and the board, I'll let you answer that one.
No. The guideline is 3.
Okay, so even though if somebody has offered to give me their time?
Nope. No, I'm sorry. We're really sticking to the 3-minute per person rule this evening, just because of the number of audience members that we have on here. I apologize.
I would also just point out again that the policies governing public participation that the board has adopted specifically says that speakers may not yield any remaining time they may have to another speaker. So that is the consistent policy of the board.
So can my hand, if can I raise my hand again? Would I be called on again?
No, we're allowing one person to speak for 3 minutes this evening.
Okay.
So we can start. So Michelle, you could start her time when she begins speaking, please.
The other thing, just before, again, I don't want to take up any more time, but also keep in mind, you are always free to submit anything you want in writing, and there's no limit on how long that may be.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'll try to get through this as quick as possible. All right, so I'm here to talk about cross-contamination sanitation protocol. And I'm going to refer to the CDC, the WHO, OSHA, and Johns Hopkins, and this is pre-pandemic. So according to what I referenced above, the minimum hand washing time was 40 to 60 seconds, preferably 60 seconds, upwards of 100 times a day. Relating to Donnan and Dauphin of mask, washing hands with soap and water, 60 seconds. You must dry hands completely, obtain a new disposable mask from a sanitary box in a sanitized area. Once the mask is properly placed, it's not to be touched, adjusted, or soiled. Should this happen, the mask is deemed contaminated and should be properly doffed. As follows, you need to wash your hands 60 seconds, dry completely, remove mask carefully, not to contaminate hands. And then you have to go into a disposal, which is, if it's a non-pathogenic exposure, you can dispose of it into a general trash receptacle with a maximum fill no more than 3/4 from the top. If it's infectious, say it's infected with COVID pathogens or another pathogen, it should be sealed in a biohazard bag and placed into a hazardous waste receptacle. So from there, we're going to go into during the pandemic, cross-contamination sanitation protocol has been significantly relaxed. According to the CDC, WHO, OSHA, Johns Hopkins, hand washing time has been reduced to 20 seconds with soap and water. Hand sanitizer is a viable option, which is a whole nother conversation. So I'm going to get back to the mask. Under the guise of PPE, the general population has been forced to masquerade in paper and cloth masks. No official training, certification, inspection of equipment is required. We are told to reuse disposable masks. Bacterial, viral-loaded, wet, funky masks no longer need to be disposed of in sanitation appropriate receptacles because it's now okay to store your mask in a paper bag, your pocket, on your rear view mirror to reuse over and over. So I'm just gonna skip a couple things here and stick with the mask. So PPE is specific to each facility. Regulation, train and certification, equipment, inspection, and support ensures maximum efficacy in effort to prevent contamination and the spread of disease. The CDC, WHO, OSHA, and medical professionals are well aware the general public cannot adhere to these standards, putting us at a higher risk of acquiring and transmitting disease because our masks are soiled and cross-contaminated. Perhaps the CDC, WHO, OSHA, and the shameless government and medical professionals endorsing this train wreck should be fined for making a mockery of sanitation guidelines at our expense. Now, I do have quite a bit of information here I'd like to share. But it's like my up.
Yeah,
so
sorry, 3 minutes.
Also, I'd like to say, Mayor Rogers, I am 100% behind you. I've compiled literally years of research on this, years of data, I think could help you. And I'm going to reach out to you and give you any information that you think might be helpful.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And for anyone who's listening, if you have information either way, whatever side you may be on, you know, I'm always open to receiving an email with that information. So send it on over.
Thank you.
Is Junior still on? Is Junior still in the mix?
Junior is not still on. Oh, well, let me see.
Anyone else? Because
Actually, he is.
I just wanted to let you, I just want to let Junior know the plow just went down the street.
It's
we're getting there. We're going to get those roads together. So, raised.
Yes, we have two more. We have next up, Joanne M. You should be able to unmute. Joanne?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Great.
we can hear you.
Great, thank you. My name's Joanne Mihovsky and I live at 113 Errand Avenue here in the village. And my question for Mayor Rogers and the village trustees is really, what is the scope of village business and its activities? As a resident and village taxpayer here for almost 30 years, my experience has been that the village activities have focused on those listed in the village code: parks and public works, historic preservation, landscaping. And I think that that's an expectation by many village residents. The board's recent activities seem to indicate a shift or an expansion in focus to include contesting statutes, laws, in this case, county regulation enforcing a state mandate, you know, whether, you know, I know that's questionable now, whether it's legal or not. But I guess my question, bottom line is, you know, there's a lot of statutes and laws that village businesses and residents, myself included, are not pleased with and really feel constrained by in many ways. And it seems likely that once this precedent has been set, you know, other similar opportunities are going to present themselves. And I guess my question is, how is the village going to select those laws to be contested, enforce those decisions, and fund those activities? And, you know, if the village board views this current situation with the county as a one-off and isn't concerned about the precedent it sets, then this seems to point to another potential issue. It seems to me it's the use of village board power based on personal opinion, possibly some sort of personal gain. I have no idea. You know, and on a practical level, how will that affect the village relations with its other government partners? I mean, how do we interact with people when we have disputes? I mean, are just resolutions put out and we just don't want to do things? I mean, we live in a cooperative and interconnected environment with other government agencies. County provides us with water, sewer, library support. And, you know, I don't know, the whole situation in the end, what does it make it? make the village simply one more government agency disagreeing with another, wasting money and valuable resources. I believe in the community. It was spoken so much about by some of the other speakers like Susan and Maria Testa and Joan Siemens. And, as a village taxpayer, the prospect and the board, the direction is taken disappoints me. And the whole situation makes me embarrassed to say I live in Williamsville, a statement which until recently I said with pride. And I'm sorry.
Thank you, Joanne.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up, we have John. John, you should be able to unmute. There is no last name, so hopefully there's no only one.
Name's John Ariola. I'm at 5754 Main Street. I would, we have people complaining about all of the polls that were not taken or the efficacy of the polls. Yet our second speaker claimed overwhelming support in this area for mask mandates. And I would just point out that that's very much unsupported by any of the stuff we heard tonight. One of the big things I would point out to all of you on the board, I would guess that it's very rare for you to find your board meetings filled wall to wall. And I've been to other board meetings. They were not filled wall to wall. As a matter of fact, they're pretty empty. And the last two that I attended were wall to wall. December, over 50 people showed up, 100% of them in support of Mayor Deb Rogers. The January meeting, all the people who showed up that were, I shouldn't say all, but I'd say an overwhelming majority that showed up in January also were in support of Mayor Deb Rogers. We had some people present by Zoom and one or two people that were in person that were unhappy with the choices she's made. But I would just point out to you guys, we all have lives, we have hobbies, dinner, kids, TV. For us to take time to leave our homes and come out to a village board meeting is exceptional. And you all should understand it as such. When we all take the time to show up at those board meetings, that is a big deal. Mark Poulin-Carr's emergency authority was rescinded by the Erie County Legislature this past summer. And to this day, I've never yet had someone be able to tell me under what authority Mark Poulin-Carr's is still continuing to give health edicts. There's never been an answer to that question. And now that the Supreme Court, and this is something I would highlight as well, a number of people were saying that you shouldn't let one judge decide these kinds of things. This is the New York State Supreme Court that found the mandates illegal today. That's the final arbiter of laws in New York State. Now that the Supreme Court has found mask mandates illegal, I would encourage Poulin-Carr's to rescind his fine. If I was the board of the village, I would move to have this whole thing dismissed. And I think that fine should just be ripped up and thrown away. Finally, someone earlier said that we would be tearing up our Heart Deb Rogers bumper stickers. Mayor Rogers, we will not be tearing them up. We will support you for Erie County executive or governor or wherever you go next. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Mayor Rogers.
Yes.
Can I just clarify one thing? And again, I'm not representing the village with respect to this mask enforcement order, but just to be clear, the decision that was issued today was issued by the New York State Supreme Court in Nassau County. New York State's a little odd. That is not the highest court in New York State. That is actually the trial level court in New York State. So just so people understand, that is the highest court in New York State is the New York State Court of Appeals. This was a judge in Nassau County who rendered that decision today.
Okay, thank you, Chip. So just as to ask a question, what does that mean for Erie County if it was rendered in Nassau County?
I'm not really going to comment on the decision because again, I'm not representing the village. With respect to that, you have counsel for that, but according to press reports, the state is planning to appeal that decision. So, you know, that's going to be the next step.
Okay, thank you.
Then, in which case it would go to the appellate division, and then ultimately it could go to the New York State Court of Appeals, but this is at the beginning stages.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Next, the last one we have is Sam Spritzer. Sam, you should be able to unmute now.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Sam.
Okay, I just want to say that I think that if we move forward with the legal action, is a irresponsible use of taxpayers' money. Whether it's $2,000 or $5,000 or $10,000. We don't even know what it's going to cost. But I don't want to see my taxes go up. Where's the money going to come from? Is it in the budget? Or are you going to put it in the budget for next year? Is it going to raise our taxes? I mean, well, that to me is a total irresponsible use of our money. That's number one. Number two, I have heard from friends of mine around the state. They're calling me, they're texting me, and they're asking me this question. You live in Williamsburg, New York? And I said, yes. I said, what is this whole fiasco about mask mandates? And I'm like, I hate to say this, but I'm kind of embarrassed by what's happening. And literally the whole state knows about it. So, I just wish we could forget about the whole thing and just move on and just, live our lives the way we're meant to be, and for our village to be the shining star that we want it to be. That's all. Thank you. Oh, by the way, my name is Sam Spritzer, and I live at 210 Evans Street. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Spritzer.
Okay, the last one, concerned citizen is the username we have here. You should be able to unmute.
Good evening, Village Board members. My name is Don Smith from 201 North Long. I'd like to thank both sides of this debate. I consider this a debate concerning an important issue to both sides. I think the issue of whether it's paid for or not is up to the board and their deliberations. I think the information provided tonight is very important. Even if a lot of the information is hearsay or supposed this, that, and the other thing, it's up to them to evaluate the information they get and give it the due value it's recorded. That they have to make up their minds based on the facts and the information the best that they know. I have noticed one factor here, though, that sort of dismays. One portion of the group of people who have argued their case have been more disrespectful of the others. And you can make up your mind on which portion of the measure that is. I think it's pretty obvious. So hopefully honesty will prevail. Intelligence and your integrity, your personal integrity as an individual will prevail. The one man that spoke before about the children got to me really, really close. And I think he encapsulated the most important issue. He spoke intelligently, compassionately, and unconfrontationally, which is what everybody here should have done and did not do. You have the responsibility to control your own meetings, and frankly, I think you failed. Thank you for letting me speak. Good day.
Thank you, Don. And nobody else has their hand raised. I'll leave it up to the board if you want to solicit any more public opinion.
If nobody has their hand raised, I think we're all set. Do you want to just double check one more time and then?
Oh, sorry. Christine wanted to speak and she had her hand raised.
No, did you unmute? I just wanted you to know that you had muted me, to unmute me. Thank
No
you.
problem, Christine. We also have Michaela, who spoke just a little while ago. She has her hand raised, but nobody else has a hand raised. If anybody else wishes to speak, you have 3 minutes to address the board on any topic of your choice. It doesn't have to necessarily be the one that was most talked about this evening. With that, we do have a new person other than Michaela, so we're going to go to them first. Jim and Tina, you are now unmuted. Please address the board if you wish.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Jim.
Yep. Good evening, everybody. I appreciate everybody's passion, as it turns out, about the issue of masks or not masks. It's an individual choice. I recognize that. And the science, depending on what platform you listen to, will dictate your opinion, perhaps. The science is clear. This is a pandemic. I don't think that's the issue, though, that needs to be talked about. The village is a wonderful community. I've been proud. I live in Williamsville. I frequent the village often. My address is 67 Hopkins. I do business in Williamsville. I've run businesses in Williamsville. It's shameful that the board has made a decision with a very small vote and appointed people to side this opinion, to spend hard-earned taxpayers' dollars to go ahead and pursue this matter, which is a much bigger matter that needs to be resolved by bigger people who have deeper pockets and more responsibility than the village of Williamsville. It's shameful that the board decided this without due process, feedback, closed door meeting, where decisions were decided. The village residents, its citizens, safety should be prominent, should be forefront. Following a mandate, it's a mandate. It's not ours to determine that if that mandate is not right, that a mandate shouldn't be followed. You got caught, you got warned. I didn't see anybody talk about that. We were warned. And we decided really with conscious mind to go ahead and not listen to that. It's your responsibility to take ownership for what you decide to do and not spend our taxpayer dollars to defend this. It's a $300 fine. It should be quickly paid, and this matter should be dismissed. Let the courts decide, other courts decide, not this town, not the town we're so proud of to be part of. And voters will remember, Mayor, and your two trustees who voted with you, they will remember, they will not forget. And this matter is not over, which should be resolved not on the taxpayers' backs. Look yourself in the mirror, pay the fine, and take ownership and responsibility, and you will gain the respect of your constituents. I appreciate everybody's passion. Make your own choices, but don't let the mayor make a choice for us to financially suffer through this as well. I appreciate your time and all of your commitment to things you do for the people. Remember, it's for the people. Thank you. I'll close there.
Jim, before you mute yourself, could you state your last name for the record?
Oh, I'm very sorry. I'm James Burke, B-U-R-K-E.
Okay.
And I did post, and I appreciate the village not deleting my post on the village site. That was very respectful to leave a public opinion, although you may not agree with it, posted. There are other venues, and there are probably people in this room that reported my post on the Nextdoor network, and they politically decided to delete my post. It was for discussion, not for opinion. I appreciate you and your board. I appreciate all you do for your citizens. please do the right thing.
No problem, Jim. You know, whatever's on Facebook is a matter of public record. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Next up, Mayor and the board, we have two people who have their hands raised who previously spoke. I will leave the determination up to you.
No,
We have Michaela and Junior.
Yes,
I-
no, I agree with Trustee Hunt and Tori on that.
Okay. All right, well, that's all we have for tonight's suspension of the rules.
Okay, so I will make a motion to close the suspension of rules for public participation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? No. Okay, so we're going to get into reports and resolutions. Keaton, I'll wait for you to put that up.
Sure. There we go.
So I would make a motion to approve resolution number 1, which involves budget transfers, and resolution number 2, which involves payroll and vouchers as they appear on the agenda. And I'll let you scroll down to the bottom of 2. And then I'll ask for a second on that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who seconded it?
Sherman.
Thank you, Dave. Okay.
Okay, resolution number 3, resolve that trustee Christine Hunt is appointed as liaison to the Historic Preservation Commission until the end of the 2021-2022 official village year.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 4, resolved that due to the recent stipulation bestowed upon the Village of Williamsville by the Erie County Department of Health, and to avoid the threat of additional fines being imposed upon the village taxpayers, and whereas according to the Erie County Department of Health, repetitive violations of 10 NYCRR 2.60 and/or Erie County emergency orders of the Erie County Commissioner of Health can result in the closure of Village Hall by order of the Erie County Commissioner of Health. Whereas an act to amend Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, signed into law on January 14th, 2022, authorizes public meetings to be held remotely, so long as the public has the ability to view or listen to such meetings, and such meetings are recorded and transcribed, so long as the state disaster emergency declared pursuant to Order 11 of 2021 or any extension thereof remain in effect. Therefore, be it resolved that all village meetings will be held remote until further notice. Do I have a second? And I will ask Administrator Kindred for a roll call vote on this.
Second.
Does anyone want to second it?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sherman. And Administrator Kindred, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Trustee Carson.
I actually would like, if a committee would like to meet in person, that they're able to do so. So I'm going to vote no.
Okay. Trustee Tori.
As this is a village decision and not a mandate, and I am liaison to committees where the Zoom function cannot and is not used, I therefore vote no.
Okay. Trustee Hunt.
I think that this would make some meetings difficult for many of our volunteers. I trust that our village residents will do the right thing and wear their mask while in Village Hall. So I vote no.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Sherman
I vote yes.
and Mayor Rogers.
I vote yes.
Motion failed 3-2.
Okay, so next for his reports and resolutions is Deputy Mayor Sherman.
I just have one resolution this evening. whereas the town of Amherst and the village of Williamsville may jointly apply for federal funds through the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Programs as a quote metropolitan city, and whereas a cooperation agreement has been prepared describing the responsibilities of the town and the village as joint applicants under these programs for funding under federal fiscal years 2022, 2023, and 2024. And whereas the Department of Housing and Urban Development has agreed to the memorandum of understanding attached to the cooperative agreement originally adopted by the Board of Trustees on May 24, 2004, pertaining to the annual review of the agreement. And whereas the state of New York has added an addendum to contract for provisions that must be followed. And whereas as a result of the Iran Divestment Act of 2012, any bidder, contractor, vendor, or any assignee must certify that it will not utilize on such contract, lease, or any subcontractor that is identified on the prohibited entities list. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor is authorized into the cooperation agreement with the town of Amherst for the town's metropolitan city status under the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Grant, federal fiscal years 2022, 2023, and 2024, subject to attorney approval.
On the question, Administrator Kindred, could you explain kind of a little more detail about this?
This is a contract that it's with HUD for the community block grant funds, and they're administered through the town. And so we have to have a shared agreement with the town for this, and it's renewed every 4 years.
Okay, I kind of knew that that's where you were going, but I know
3
trustee
years.
Carson is new, so I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of what it was. So, all right, thank you. So do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, everybody? Okay. Okay, are you all set with your reports then, Trustee or Deputy Mayor Sherman?
I am, thank you.
Okay. Next for his reports is Trustee Carson.
Nothing today, thanks.
Okay. Next for her reports is Trustee Hunt.
No report this evening.
And next for her reports and resolution is Trustee Torrey.
Thank you, Mayor Rogers. I just want to note that this motion was put forward at our last special meeting on the 20th of January, and it was not voted on. And therefore, I am repeating it for everybody to hear votes. Resolve that the village board directs the mayor to sign the Erie County Department of Health stipulation and the $300 penalty be paid, and be it further resolved that should the mayor decline to do so, the deputy mayor be empowered to execute the stipulation on behalf of the village board. Do I hear a second?
Chip, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I can hear you.
I have a question on that. Is that actually possible? If we were to pass this resolution, that the deputy mayor would be empowered to do so?
Again, I'm not representing the village on this issue, so I can't really advise you, the board, with respect to this resolution. Other than to say, I guess what I can say, generally speaking, if the board authorizes and directs the mayor to do something, to sign an agreement, then it is the signing of the agreement is a ministerial act. So if the mayor doesn't sign it, the deputy mayor, I believe, could sign. But that's just, I'm talking generally speaking.
Okay, thank you. I second.
Okay, Administrator Kindred, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Trustee Carson.
A prepared statement. I'm a resident of Williamsville, a trustee, a husband, a father, but a Christian first. I have a wife, a mayor, a county executive, a governor, president, and a king. who is Jesus Christ. Jesus asks us to live in his kingdom, where he's all powerful, all knowing, perfect, and sovereign. This is our true home. This kingdom's laws boil down to two things. 1, love God. 2, love others. How do we love God? To love God is to know him, to spend time with him, and obey him. Many of you are familiar with the Sermon on the Mount. It's a famous sermon given by Jesus about 2,000 years ago, about many topics, many quotable verses. Some of these verses are, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness. And finally, seek first his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. So what is righteousness that Jesus is talking about? Righteousness is doing what is right and just. The right thing is very important to our King. Our country is founded on Christian principles. It's still written on our money. That's in God we trust. It's backwards. But notice how it doesn't say in science we trust. So, given this framework of loving God and his righteousness, let's talk about the mask mandate. The CDC initially said not to wear masks. Then they said we all should wear them. Then only the unvaccinated. And now we are back to everyone having to wear them again. Following the science, they are now saying that cloth and surgical masks are basically useless against COVID, and N95s are now the gold standard. These masks are so effective that it no longer matters if we are around unmasked people at any distance for any length of time. If that's not good enough, you can even wear 2 of them. These masks are not new. I personally believe that they were aware of this from day one, but politics and supply problems trumped science. So the CDC's guidance only very recently acknowledged all of this old information. With the science, it should be fact that the immunocompromised, elderly, or fearful should be protected along with vaccinations and boosters without regard of other environmental factors using an N95 mask. An unmasked person should be able to be around a masked person, and that masked person should be safe. So I ask you, is it right that we needlessly force everyone in our state to wear masks, even those who have been recently recovered from COVID? Is it right that my 2-year-old daughter has to wear a mask and she's not allowed to suck her own thumb for comfort? Is it right that my 5 and 7-year-old, sorry, I'm gonna cry several times, I promise, that my 5 and 7-year-old have to wear useless masks all day long at school? Is it right that my 7-year-old has developed speech problems because during his formative years, he couldn't see anyone's mouth while he was trying to learn how to talk? Is it right that my 5-year-old comes home with the most disgusting mask you've ever seen, totally dirty, totally wet? He's been playing with it all day and he's had to have it on his face. Is it right that my wife almost passed out after teaching a spinning class because she had a mask on? Is it right to have a friend who has anxiety problems now around big crowds of people? Is it right that I have another friend who is in counseling right now because he has depression after the pandemic? I don't believe these things are righteous, what Jesus talks about. Can we not have different opinions without getting censored or canceled? In the past 2 years, my family has traveled to 21 different US states, 21, and 2 foreign countries. We get around, that's pretty impressive, right? The most oppressed we've been in all those places, Erie County, right here. The rest of the country has figured out how to get freedoms and allow everyone to live in harmony, masked or unmasked, vaccinated or unvaccinated. And guess what? Our New York State COVID response is far from a success story. So let's talk about this fine that just happened. So is it right that we have to police our own meetings? We have signs at the door, we provided masks, we even had a police officer there. Is it right that the sanitation officer that was there didn't even announce themselves? All I had to do was say, hey, everyone put a mask on or leave. That's all he had to say. We get a fine 2 days later. Normally when you're charged something, don't you get charged right then and there, right? As for that warning that someone brought up, we never saw that warning until after the meeting. It never came to our desk. Is it right that we have an unknown accuser? Is it right that our accuser never asked anyone if they weren't medically able to wear a mask? Is it right that our 1 square mile village gets singled out? I believe we're the first municipality in all of the state to get such a violation. Go to any Target, Walmart, grocery store, whatever. There are people with masks all the time. Why have those businesses never been cited? Is it right that we have no due process? Is it right that we have to pay to defend ourselves? Is it right that the courts that we have to defend ourselves are controlled by the same people that gave us the violation? And finally, is it right that we have to burden our taxpayers with this? No, it's not right at all, right? Not only do we have to burden our tax dollars with it, but the county has to do it for the prosecution side as well. There's too much injustice and unrighteousness in the story. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. To love God is to love righteousness. So as for the second commandment, loving others, I love my family, I love my neighbors, I love all of you, every one of you. And I love our county executive. Mr. Poulin, I'm talking to you. I pray for you all the time. I've only been a trustee for 2 weeks, and I appreciate how difficult it is to be in the public eye. It's really hard. I've lost a lot of sleep. I can't imagine what you have to go through. Sir, I respectfully asked you to reconsider this violation and drop the charges for the good of us all, not to burn a small village with an unrighteous fine in an already financially difficult time. Let's settle this with diplomacy instead of war games. I motion to table our decision on this resolution. Let's give the county time to respond. The mask mandates expire February 1st. There's this new ruling we just heard about. I think it'd be good to let us take a step back, a breather, let the dust settle. Jesus, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Thank you.
Amen.
So if you didn't catch it, I did motion to table the resolution.
I heard.
Okay. Trustee Hunt.
Very moving, Trustee Carson. I appreciate your words. They were well thought out and true in a lot of ways, especially based on religious beliefs. But I am no scientist nor doctor. I trust the science. I believe in God, but I trust the science. So I will ask that we put aside this disagreement, understanding that we agree to disagree, to quote Basil, the former trustee, and put this to rest by voting yes for this resolution. Thank you.
Trustee Torrey.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
No, I've been involved as a journalist in a lot of controversies and give and takes with government at all levels. And this is probably the first time I had to make a decision of this magnitude. And I also am very touched by Matt's words. And I've been touched regularly by people who value our good name of the village of Williamsville.
Mm-hmm.
And I reluctantly vote yes.
And Mayor Rogers.
Did Trustee Carson want to put in a vote? I don't think I heard that, just a motion.
Yeah, sorry. How does that work exactly? I was motioning to.
Well, so, yeah, so you put forth a motion. I mean, there would have to be at least a second to get it out to a vote, and there wasn't. So being that Administrator Kindred had come to you beforehand, I think it's important that you put forth a vote at this time, since no board member was interested in seconding that motion. So I'd ask
Okay.
you to put forth a vote.
So I will say I'm not ever gonna be a yes, but I'm a no for now. I would like to hear from the county. So I'm not saying I wouldn't vote yes at some point, because I think the money is way too much for the, but no for now.
Thanks. And Mayor Rogers.
So I do understand that, you know, we've had many residents who have reached out to us via email and phone calls, and who believe that the village should just sign off on the stipulation from the Department of Health, pay the $300 fine and move on. And I agree that, I will also agree that this issue has caused a great deal of tension in our village, and it has essentially divided much of the village as well. So I want to acknowledge that as well. And however, as I've stated previously, by signing the stipulation, the Village of Williamsville does admit to full responsibility for the enforcement of the mask rules, liability, and guilt. And if you read the stipulation, essentially those three items are in there, and those are three things that we are admitting to. And as a municipality, I believe we're required to hold ourselves to the highest standard and not be expected to sign something that is flawed or against our better judgment. And it is unfortunate that this improper stipulation from the Erie County Department of Health is being issued to a government entity. It is nothing more than a targeted retribution issued as a result of the village board voicing a civil debate over mandates. This tells us, and this means that if you challenge, or if you speak out, or if you question, you will be targeted by the Erie County Department of Health in an effort to be silenced. And with that, I vote no.
Motion passed 3-2.
So Deputy Mayor Sherman, you will be signing the stipulation then, is that correct?
I plan to sign the stipulation tomorrow at Village Hall in person.
Okay, thank you.
Would that have to be, I mean,
I have it.
it's ready to go.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, they sent us the paperwork that just needs to be signed and returned.
All right, I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go into any staff reports. I know we kind of
Nothing.
went through everything with work session. Okay, if there's no staff reports, we have no executive session this evening, so I will make a motion to.
Ben has his hand up. Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
Ben has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hold on 1 second. It's okay. Here we go. You're on, Ben.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was only to say that, no, I do not have anything to report. Mouse seem to be working.
Oh, you know what? You know what I will ask you before we adjourn, because I know, I think Mr. Ryder brought it up earlier. I know there is some snow. We got a lot of snow, and I know it got frozen, and I realize the difficulty trying to pull in to park, being, you know, trying to get in the fog line there because of the snow. And it looked like somebody had tried to plow out those parking spaces a little more. I didn't know if you just wanted to maybe make a statement or a thought on that, Ben, and if you don't, that's fine too.
Yeah, sure. We clear the bump outs to provide a spot for the state trucks to dump off when they clear the banks back. It really is a board decision to direct me to the department to clear the snow storage area on Main Street. So I leave that in your hands. It's an issue of manpower. You see what we got done here this week. Clearing off Main Street, it's going to be all that much more time. So it is the state's right of way They have cleared it in the past. Perhaps a request to the state for some assistance on that. They've been very busy working downtown too. So, and this is that's
Okay,
my thought on that one. We can discuss deeper moving forward. So just for everyone to consider, if that's the direction the board wants to give, then so be it.
okay, thank you.
And that's all.
Also, it's also up to you and the board. Dan Ryder has his hand up again. I just didn't want it to go unaddressed.
I'd rather not because we closed public participation. But thank you, Keaton.
No problem.
Does the board have anything else before we adjourn for the evening? No. Okay, well, thank you everyone for your time, everyone who zoomed in. We do appreciate your comments and your thoughts, and everyone be well. Stay warm.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night all.
Motion to
joining us.
adjourn. Someone needs to motion to adjourn.
Thank you,
Okay,
Judy.
I did that. Motion to adjourn, seconded. All in favor?
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Night.
Good night, everyone.
Night.